Chapter 901, Long Time, No See. He is back. The three words were echoing in the minds of Liu Zili and Lin Yuxi like a deafening thunder from the nine heavens. Zhu Kei's identity was a little bit different at this moment. His soul was from Earth, but his body was from the world of cultivators. After so many years of cultivation, his body, which was almost reshaped, had merged with his soul completely. They were totally stunned and didn't believe what they had heard. What does this mean? Zhu Kei died 6 years ago. You told us he is back. How could a dead person come back to this world? Hey, what's going on? Why did my words scare you that much? Their reaction surprised Huang Qing a bit. Then he said, shaking his head with a smile, don't worry. Although Zhu Kei is an extraordinary person now, he has gotten over the things that happened in the past. I can see he doesn't have time to get even with you. Even I can't stand by idly and watch it any longer. I mean you, Liu Zili, please don't speak ill of Zhu Kei in the future, or I'm afraid you will have a hard time in the film industry. After saying that, Huang Qing turned around and was about to leave. Wait. Lin Yuxi grew pale and stopped him suddenly. Mr. Huang, do you mean you have met Zhu Kei? Certainly. Just now we shared a car on our way here. It so happened that the reunion of his junior middle school classmates was also being held in this restaurant. Huang Qing said, nodding his head. Splatter. All of a sudden, the wine glass dropped from Liu Zili's hands. Ah! She couldn't help but shout in surprise. She was even stunned by her reaction. Then, she said, staring at Huang Qing angrily, Huang Qing, are you insane? Do you think it is interesting to scare us like this? Scare you? Huang Qing was confused. How could you be scared by my kind suggestion? Could it be that Zhu Kei is even more powerful than I imagined? Humphrey, Yuxi, just ignore him. Do you really believe what he just said? Zhu Kei died 6 years ago. You saw his body in the hospital yourself. Liu Zili gave Huang Qing a mean look, for she thought Huang Qing was trying to fool them. Then she turned to leave, dragging Lin Yuxi with her. However, this time it was Huang Qing's turn to be badly scared. Liu Zili's words totally shocked Huang Qing, who almost sat down on the ground. Wait! He shouted in fear. Liu Zili, what did you say? Zhu Kei died 6 years ago? Liu Zili rolled her eyes. Bullcrap. Don't tell me you don't know about this. We don't have time to talk nonsense with you today. Holy crap. I really don't know anything about this crap. No, you are fooling me. We came here in the same car today. I also saw he was with Director Kai. Right, Director Kai. Huang Qing, who was panic-stricken, realized something and his face darkened immediately. Zhu Kei might be dead. Director Kai couldn't be dead. It is impossible that Director Kai was trying to scare me with a ghost. I was almost fooled by this woman. Then Huang Qing sneered. Liu Zili, could the story you fabricated be more reasonable? You know Director Kai Tengjin, right? He is a classmate of Zhu Kei's. Just now he drove Zhu Kei and me here. Now they are having dinner in this restaurant. We can go and have a look if you don't believe me. Director Kai? Liu Zili was surprised. Kai Tengjin was definitely one of the most famous directors in Huaxia. Anyone who wanted to do business in the film field or was interested in the film industry of Huaxia would know Director Kai. Was Director Kai Zhu Kei's classmate? Wait, I remember the film that was released by Director Kai, who acted as its investor, last year. Liu Zili realized something suddenly. The name of the director and producer of the film, which shocked the entire world last year, was also Zhu Kei. She had thought that guy had the same name as Zhu Kei. However, Huang Qing, are you sure the one you saw was Zhu Kei? Liu Zili asked, as she looked at Huang Qing seriously. Of course I am. I talked with him in the car about many things that happened in our high school days. If you still don't believe me, let's go to find him now, Huang Qing said impatiently. Meanwhile, he was quite confused because this seemed to be the first time that Liu Zili was acting so serious in front of him. Lin Yuxi, who was beside them, turned pale completely and couldn't believe what she had heard at all. She was totally dumbfounded. Liu Zili couldn't sit still anymore. She asked, looking at Lin Yuxi, Yuxi, Are you sure you witnessed Zukei's death? Lin Yuxi nodded her head stiffly. She was quite sure that Zukei had really died. Liu Zili said seriously. Huang Qing, you hear that? We have no reason to cheat you. Zukei really died. Yuxi was Zukei's ex-girlfriend. They broke up in their freshman year because of some conflicts. When Zukei was on his way back to the campus, he was killed in a car accident. Yuxi even witnessed his body before it was sent to the mortuary. Huang Qing was stunned. Then, he said suspiciously, this sounds impossible. If he had been killed in a car accident, the accident would definitely have been reported on the news. Why are you the only ones who know this among so many classmates? Because, Lin Yuxi said suddenly in a hoarse voice as her eyes reddened. Because it was not an accident. Someone murdered him, and the truth has been covered up ever since. What? Liu Zili was surprised. Apparently, this was the first time for her to hear about this too. Huang Qing was completely puzzled. He couldn't believe Zukei was really dead. Damn, he is definitely alive. Mr. Huang, did you really see him with your own eyes? Lin Yuxi asked with a trembling voice as she looked at Huang Qing. So many years had passed. People assumed she would have forgotten Zukei completely, but she hadn't. It was not because she still had an affection for Zukei. For many years, she had been tortured by self-accusations, for she blamed herself for Zukei's death. Therefore, she couldn't believe the news that Zukei was back. She didn't know how to describe this feeling. It was unreal, relaxing, but even more terrifying, for she was quite sure Zukei had really died. The bloody scene was still in her mind. That's enough. Let me lead you to him. You can have a look for yourselves. If what you said is true, I guess he didn't die. Huang Qing realized Lin Yuxi and Liu Zili weren't fooling with him because their reactions seemed so serious. Thus, there was only one possibility left. Zukei wasn't killed. He had found a place to heal his wounds. And now he had come back recently. Let's go and have a look. Yuxi, don't worry, maybe you were deceived before, Liu Zili said, as she looked at Lin Yuxi. Lin Yuxi had also gotten suspicious. Could it be that he was not killed? Or, the one who was killed was not him, just like some quaint movie plots? He might have pretended to be dead, being driven to distraction by all these assumptions. Lin Yuxi was dragged out of the main hall by Liu Zili. Then, they headed for the private dining room area with Huang Qing. At the same time, Zukei had drunk a lot with Kai in a private dining room. The old classmates who hadn't seen each other for so many years had almost become strangers. They'd just gotten together to talk about the things that happened in their middle school years. However, Zukei couldn't remember the things that happened so long ago. After spending several years in the world of cultivators and decades in the illusory realm, how could he remember those trifling things that happened during his middle school years? Therefore, Zukei stood up to say goodbye to everyone. After several drinks, he decided to go to the main hall. It couldn't be better than if Lin Yuxi was also there, for he could take this opportunity to ask her about the things that happened in those years that he didn't know about. Also, he would take this opportunity to ask about the whereabouts of his younger sister. He had asked Kai to search for his younger sister. However, Kai couldn't find any information about her. What Kai could confirm was that his younger sister was not in Huaxia at all. Zu, are you really going to leave? Kai Tengjin couldn't help but say with a wry smile when he saw Zukei was about to leave. He thought Zukei would be mocked by the others for being dumped by Lin Yuxi all those years ago. Right, you just continue to enjoy the reunion. Kai, don't forget the thing I asked you to do. When you have it done, please call me immediately. Zukei reminded Kai about preventing tourists from visiting Mount Tai with a smile. Don't worry, I've asked my people to do that before coming here. It shall be done in 2 days. Don't leave in such a hurry. When you finish your business, please come back. I want to leave together with you. Kai said. No, I still have other business to deal with. I will come see you in several days. Zukei waved his hand and left. Squeak. He opened the door of the private dining room and stepped out. When he had stepped out of the room, Zukei was surprised a little bit. In the corridor, Huang Qing, Liu Zili, and Lin Yuxi were just in front of him. All of a sudden, it seemed that the air around them was frozen. Together with time, they said nothing, but looked at each other in surprise and shock. What? Zhu Ke registered surprise on making eye contact with Lin Yuxi. Old memories reappeared in his mind. However, those things that happened in the past were as transient as a fleeting cloud. Zhu Ke had already put all those issues aside. Now he only cared about 3 issues: bringing Zhang Hongyan to Earth, finding Zuf, and investigating the cause of his death in his past life. All the rest of the issues meant nothing to him. After coming to himself, he looked at Lin Yuxi calmly. His eyes were filled with indifference and strangeness. He had become the horrible big devil in the world of cultivators. She was just an ordinary person. Although their past had left something remarkable in his memory, she couldn't cause any mood swings in his heart now. At the same time, Lin Yuxi's heart was filled with complicated feelings: guilt, shock, fear, and pleasant joy. She didn't know how to describe this complicated mood. However, the reaction of her body was that her eyes were filled up with tears. She wanted to rush up and hug Zhu Ke in her arms, because the self-accusation that had tortured her for so many years seemed to disappear completely. At this moment, Zhu Ke said, as he looked at her calmly, "Miss Lin, long time no see." His calm tone was full of indifference and strangeness like his current mood. Chapter 902. The Truth of Past Events. "Miss Lin?" His long-lost voice stunned Lin Yuxi slightly. Although his voice hadn't changed, she got a clear feeling from those 2 words that his tone had changed, together with the way he used to address her. He was no longer that young man anymore. At this moment, Lin Yuxi came to herself and calmed down, dragging herself out from those complicated feelings. The experience and toughening of the years had mellowed her and given her extraordinary control over situations like this. Therefore, she calmed down immediately. "Mr. Zhu, long time no see." She replied politely and nodded as she looked at Zhu Ke. After removing those complicated feelings from her mind, she was still puzzled by one question: how could Zhu Ke have survived what she had seen? What else was hidden in that car accident? "Zhu Ke?" Suddenly, Liu Zili asked, as she looked at Zhu Ke in surprise. "Didn't you die?" "How could?" "You're right, I died." Zhu Ke smiled and nodded calmly. Then he said, "But I was revived." "Be revived after dying?" His reply shocked Liu Zili and Lin Yuxi. Huang Qing laughed suddenly. "Ha ha, as I said before, Zhu Ke, as a smart guy, how could you die that easily? And I guess you've suffered a lot in those years of disappearance, right?" "Yes, it was quite difficult for me, and I almost failed in coming back." Zhu Ke nodded his head. Although he had done quite well in the world of cultivators in these past years, there had still been risks. Especially, the trip back to Earth was very difficult for him. However, his words had different meanings for Huang Qing, Liu Zili, and Lin Yuxi. They thought it was quite difficult for Zhu Ke to recover from his wounds caused in the car accident, which almost killed him, in these past few years. Lin Yuxi was still totally surprised, for she had seen Zhu Ke's frigid corpse. It was so difficult for her to believe he could be revived. More important, who could have saved him? In those circumstances, even if he could be revived, he would need a super elite medical group to do that. As a parentless poor boy who only had a younger sister, he couldn't afford such a miraculous medical group, as well as the costs of long-term recovery. "Miss Lin, do you have time? I want to talk with you about something privately," Zhu Ke asked, looking at Lin Yuxi at this time. Lin Yuxi said, shaking her head, "Zhu Ke, just let it go. There is nothing to talk about between us. I don't want to do that. Let's forget it altogether." "Hey, don't worry. What I want to talk with you about is not our past relationship, but the car accident," Zhu Ke replied with a smile. Lin Yuxi was shocked a bit, but said, as she continued to shake her head, "I don't want to talk about the car accident either. I don't want to discuss any of these issues anymore. I'm quite glad that you are alive. This is from the bottom of my heart. Just let it be." After saying that, she turned around and prepared to leave. Standing between them, Liu Zili and Huang Qing were surprised by their conversation as they looked at Zhu Ke and Lin Yuxi in puzzlement. At this time, Zhu Ke stepped forward to stop Lin Yuxi as he said coldly, "Miss Lin, Let me repeat my request. Please tell me everything about the car accident. Otherwise you can't leave this place today. Petter. Lin Yuxi stopped immediately. Then, she looked at Zhu Ke in surprise. At this moment, she felt that the Zhu Ke who was in front of him was a stranger to her. His cold eyes, overbearing momentum, and horrible aura had made him a totally different person. You. Lin Yuxi couldn't help but step back as she turned pale. Liu Zieli, who couldn't watch it anymore, walked up and said in a loud voice, Zhu Ke, what do you mean? Lin Yuxi doesn't want to talk with you. Why do you stop her from leaving? I hereby suggest you make way for her, or I will call the police. Hey, call the police, just do it. Zhu Ke smiled calmly as he continued to fix his eyes on Lin Yuxi. Call the police. You can't stop the tough saint when he has made up his mind to do something, even if you call the Celestials. Liu Zieli, who was annoyed by Zhu Ke's reaction, said, clenching her teeth, okay, you are forcing me to do that. She took out her mobile phone and really started to call the police. Miss Liu, please wait. Lin Yuxi stopped Liu Zieli suddenly. Then, Lin Yuxi turned to Zhu Ke and said, okay, let's talk. What do you want to talk with me about? Follow me. Zhu Ke replied calmly as he stepped toward the end of the corridor, which led to the open terrace of the restaurant. Liu Zieli said immediately as she looked at Lin Yuxi, Yuxi, just ignore him. That is the Dao Deng restaurant. I could ask their guards to throw him out. That won't be necessary, Miss Liu. Lin Yuxi said in a low voice as she shook her head slightly. Maybe he will give up when I tell him some truths. After saying that, Lin Yuxi walked away following Zhu Ke. At last, both of them were standing in front of the fence on the restaurant's open terrace. They were speechless as they looked at the city below them. Everything has changed in these last years, Zhu Ke said first with a faint smile. No matter for how long he had left, Earth was still quite cordial for him. You've also changed a lot, Lin Yuxi said calmly as she looked at Zhu Ke. In her memory, Zhu Ke was a sunny and handsome boy. He was kind and smart. Sometimes he was a little bit careless, casual, and frivolous. However, he had his bottom line and principles. He was an easygoing and warm boyfriend. His kindness toward others was from the bottom of his heart. His kind heart was always thinking of others. However, Lin Yuxi couldn't feel any kindness from him anymore. She felt Zhu Ke was more mature than before. Also, he was quite overbearing and cold. His overbearing and cold character was deeply hidden. She wouldn't have sensed it if she hadn't had a relationship with him before. However, she was quite sure that Zhu Ke had been totally changed. It doesn't matter whether I changed or not. Actually, I want to talk with you about two issues. Zhu Ke shook his head as he didn't want to have a casual chat with Lin Yuxi. He only wanted to know something urgently before leaving for Mount Tai. First, who planned that car accident? Second, where is my younger sister? Zhu Ke cut to the chase. Lin Yuxi was surprised by his questions. Then, she replied with a self-deprecating smile, I thought one of your questions would be why I broke up with you before. It doesn't matter to me now. Zhu Ke shook his head. Everything is predestined. It is unnecessary to be entangled in something. Moreover, I've found a life match. After saying that, Zhu Ke looked up at the sky where the moon was located. Then congratulations. Lin Yuxi replied with a smile. After being surprised a bit, she was not embarrassed by the news that Zhu Ke had found a new sweetheart. After all, the relationship between them had been finished for so long a time. Now she only felt happy for Zhu Ke. Zhu Ke came back alive with the one he loved. This relieved the self-accusation that had tortured her for so many years. Thank you. Zhu Ke nodded his head calmly. Now, could you answer my questions? After a short while of silence, Lin Yuxi let out a sigh and said in a low voice, I don't know where your younger sister is. However, I heard she went abroad for studies after the car accident. I guess she hasn't come back to Huaxia yet. As for that car accident, I know the one who planned it. Your younger sister and some of your good friends used to ask me about that, but I didn't tell them, because. Lin Yuxi paused a bit, then, she said seriously as she stared at Zhu Ke. Because the one who planned the car accident is Xia Luoqing. He is the son of the master of the Xia family. which is the #1 family of the capital city. Okay, I got it. Zuke nodded his head and left directly after hearing that. The Xia family, Xiaoluoking? Good. Just wait for Zuke of the Exploding Heavens faction to convey his warmth. Chapter 903, The Psycho Zuke. Wait, you! Lin Yuxi shouted in surprise. She couldn't believe what she had seen. Zuke's reaction surprised her completely. She thought Zuke would be terrified after hearing about the Xia family. After all, anyone who had ever lived in capital city was terrified by the horrible power of the Xia family. When Xiaoluoking started to pursue her, he knew she had a boyfriend. Therefore, he fabricated ambiguous records of chats between Zuke and other girls. Then, he sent the records to Lin Yuxi. After that, he planned the car accident which killed Zuke. In capital city, the life of a single man meant nothing to Xiaoluoking. He killed Zuke as easily as if he kicked a small stone out of his way. After that, Xiaoluoking started to pursue Lin Yuxi. At the same time, she learned the truth about what he had done to Zuke. Therefore, she stayed away from Xiaoluoking. Luckily, after being rejected by Lin Yuxi, Xiaoluoking didn't have time to harm her because the Xia family asked him to return home. It was said that he was ordered to toughen himself up in the army. It was also said that he became the apprentice of an expert. Anyway, Xiaoluoking disappeared for years after that. When she started to work after her graduation, she heard that Xiaoluoking had showed up again. She requested to work abroad immediately, and she only dared to come back in recent years. Anything else, Miss Lin? Zuke turned around and asked at this time. Lin Yuxi asked in surprise, Are you going to leave in this way? Are you going to seek revenge on the Xia family? Those who killed me shall pay. Zuke nodded. Lin Yuxi was shocked. Zuke, I told you the truth. But I want you to give up and forget what happened before. Do you know how powerful the Xia family is now? Zuke replied with a faint smile. I don't care how powerful they are. In my eyes, all people in this world are ants. You. Lin Yuxi was stunned, and she didn't know what to say. She had never expected Zuke's reply would be like that. All people in this world are ants? Is his mind full of weird movie plots? Zuke, please listen to me. Don't try to provoke the Xia family. I know you had a hard time these last few years. Since you have regained your life, just forget all about it and let it be. Lin Yuxi tried hard to persuade Zuke because she was worried about him. She didn't want Zuke to be killed after regaining his life with such difficulty. How could a poor man without any background rival an enormous family? Thank you for your kind suggestion. However, I don't want to provoke the Xia family. I will convey my warmth to them by representing the Exploding Heavens faction. Zuke replied with a faint smile. You are going to convey warmth to the Xia family? Lin Yuxi was even more confused, for she really didn't know what Zuke was going to do. No. First, I am going to bring my woman to Earth. She is still on the moon now. The moon? Lin Yuxi was dumbfounded again. This time she really started to think that Zuke was a psycho. His jumpy thoughts are unbelievable. 1 moment ago, he said he would seek revenge on the Xia family. Then, he said he would convey warmth to the Xia family. Now he said he was going to take his woman to Earth from the moon. Isn't he a psycho? Wait. Lin Yuxi suddenly realized something. Then, she asked in surprise, do you mean that Chang'e in ancient costume who is the topic of the whole world? She is not Chang'e, her name is Zhang Hongyan, and she is my woman. Zuke replied calmly. Then, he turned around and left directly. Lin Yuxi was totally stunned on the spot. Of course, she didn't believe Zuke's words at all. That fairy-like woman on the moon was so graceful and elegant that she had been deemed as a rare perfect woman who was being envied by all women on Earth. When Lin Yuxi saw the picture of Zhang Hongyan from the internet, she felt she was cast into the shade by Zhang Hongyan and even didn't believe such a perfect woman could exist in this world. However, Zuke said that woman was his sweetheart, and he was about to leave to bring her to Earth. Now, the only thought in Lin Yuxi's mind was that Zuke had lost his mind. Could it be that car accident didn't kill him, but damaged his brain? Lin Yuxi murmured to herself. Zhu Kei's weird words also strengthened the idea in her mind. Finally, when she went back to the corridor of the restaurant, she found Zhu Kei had left. Huang Cheng and Liu Zili were still waiting for her. When they saw her, they walked up to her immediately. Liu Zili asked first, "Yuxi, what happened? What did you tell him?" Huang Cheng also asked curiously. "Right. What did you say?" He left with a smile as if he had gotten some good news. "Wait, don't tell me you two have reunited." "Reunited?" Lin Yuxi shook her head with a wry smile. A strand of sympathy and pity appeared in her eyes. Then, she said in a low voice, "His behavior was quite weird. He is no longer the one I knew all those years ago. I guess his head was damaged in that car accident." Liu Zili was shocked. "What?" Huang Zheng was also surprised. "What do you mean?" Lin Yuxi replied, shaking her head. "Do you know what he told me just now? He said the woman in the ancient costume on the moon is his woman, and he even named that woman as Zhang Hongyan. Now he is going to bring that woman to Earth." Gasp! Huang Cheng gasped immediately after hearing that. Then, he said, patting his forehead, "Damn, no wonder he told me he performed cultivation when I asked about his experiences during these years in the car. I thought he performed self-cultivation in a remote Taoist temple in the mountains. It turns out he was locked in a madhouse." His words made Liu Zili and Lin Yuxi speechless. At this moment, they could almost confirm that Zhu Kei was suffering from some mental diseases, which were extremely serious. "Miss Liu, would you please do me a favor?" Lin Yuxi asked as she looked at Liu Zili at this moment. Liu Zili came to herself and said, nodding her head, "What?" "Please ask someone to follow Zhu Kei. I'm afraid he has just escaped from a madhouse. Ask someone to take care of him and stop him from making any trouble. I hope you could get him treatment in the best hospital. I will pay all the expenses." Lin Yuxi said, "Okay, I will ask someone to do that." Liu Zili said, nodding her head after a short hesitation. At this moment, Zhu Kei, who was dashing forward in the sky by stepping on lightning after leaving the restaurant, didn't know he had been deemed as a psycho by others. He was heading for Mount Tai. When the mountain was emptied, he could open the gap on the restrictive spell and bring Zhang Hongyan to Earth. "Little girl, I will bring you to Earth soon," Zhu Kei murmured to himself as he looked at the moon. After Zhang Hongyan landed on Earth, he could focus on searching for Zuf and conveying his warmth to the Xia family. Humphrey, the Xia family of Capital City. Zhu Kei couldn't help but sneer to himself at the thought of the Xia family. His death had been quite miserable. He had been killed like a bug just because a pampered rich boy wanted to pursue Lin Yuxi. Now he had returned. No matter how tiny the Xia family was in his eyes, he would never let them go. After all, tooth for tooth was the rule of the Exploding Heavens faction, and his enemy had to pay in multiple hundredfolds. Chapter 904. The rewards of opening the spell. 2 days later, Zhu Kei had arrived at Mount Tai. He had stayed in the mountain for 2 days, waiting for the people sent by Kai to seal the mountain and drive all the people in this area away. Luckily, Kai accomplished this task in 2 days reliably. All the people in this mountain, including all the owners of small restaurants and shops, were sent away. Several citizens who had escaped the net were later also scared away when Zhu Kei dressed himself as a ghost at night. At this moment, Zhu Kei was standing at the summit of Mount Tai. The entire mountain was extraordinarily quiet. Boom! He started to scan the mountain with his powerful soul strength. After confirming that there was no sense of humans on the mountain, he took out a spell disc. Then, he sealed Mount Tai with an ordinary defensive spell. System, I am ready to open the restrictive spell. Zhu Kei opened the system interface. According to the guidance he had received, he started to search for the spell core of the restrictive spell at the summit of Mount Tai. Although he didn't know who had set up the powerful restrictive spell outside Earth, he could figure out that his person was quite powerful, who at least would have reached the celestial realm. Otherwise, this person could never have set up such an extraordinary restrictive spell. This restrictive spell had a lot of spell cores. All of them were time-honored historical sites on Earth. For example, the pyramids, Easter Island, and Stonehenge were 3 of the mysterious sites. Mount Tai, where Zhu Kei was now, was also quite important in Huaxia. From ancient times, people treated Mount Tai as a paradise that could lead to the throne. Ordinary people and emperors came to Mount Tai to have religious sacrificial ceremonies. Both Taoism and Buddhism regarded Mount Tai as a celestial mountain, and a Buddhist country had built countless temples on it. A lot of ancient buildings and stone tablets could be found on Mount Tai. As a cultivator, Zhu Ke knew clearly that these legends were not groundless. The possible reason that ancient people held Mount Tai in esteem could be related to the restrictive spell core in this mountain. Among the ancient people, there would also be cultivators. Therefore, there was a very famous saying, "As long as Mount Tai is safe, the entire world is safe." It seems the history of Earth could rival that of the world of cultivators. The Earth also has had a splendid history. Zhu Ke exclaimed and continued to search for the restrictive spell. At last, Zhu Ke found the spell core on a heaven worship altar with the guidance of the system. The entire spell core was deeply buried under the ground. It was quite difficult to sense the power of the restrictive spell. However, Zhu Ke was 2/3 an earthling. The system confirmed that his bloodline was qualified to inherit the spell core of this restrictive spell. Okay, let's begin. Zhu Ke walked to the heaven worship altar and sat down at its center with his legs crossed. Then he held out a finger. A cut appeared on that finger and fresh blood started to drip on the altar slowly. He didn't need to move the entire mountain to inherit the spell core. The inheritance only needed the power of his bloodline and mind sense. Zhu Ke was able to handle this operation with ease. When the altar was drenched by his blood, he opened his soul strength and started to check the underground area with his blood. Then, he sat on the altar quietly with his legs crossed as if he was in a secluded cultivation. 2 hours had passed and he was motionless. 4 hours had passed and he was as quiet as a rock. 6 hours, 12 hours, 1 day, 2 days. On the 3rd day, the entire Mount Tai trembled a bit, which created a dull sound. Almost at the same time, Zhu Ke opened his eyes abruptly. His pitch-dark pupils became deeper, like a galaxy. "I didn't expect I could find this opportunity during this inheritance," Zhu Ke murmured in surprise. In the last 3 days, he had managed to control this spell core and even obtained an ancient heritage, which was an incomplete rune, from it. More important, he could sense some familiarity from this incomplete rune. After being absorbed by his body, it started to resonate with a magic art. "Interesting. Let me check this magic art. Maybe the one who set up this restrictive spell is related to me by destiny." Zhu Ke smiled as he checked his magic arts. Soon, he found the source of the resonance, which surprised him. He hadn't acquired the magic art that resonated with that incomplete rune. How could this be? Zhu Ke said in disbelief. He got 2 heritages in the 5 Elements Mountain. One was the Heaven and Earth Seal. The other one included the pupils of the Fire Eyes and the 8x9 transformation that he inherited from that creature. He didn't expect this incomplete rune would resonate with the pupils of the Fire Eyes. The incomplete rune merged with the pupils of the Fire Eyes completely as if some of its defects had been remedied and the magic art had been perfected. At the time he had gotten the heritages in the 5 Elements Mountain, Zhu Ke's Taoist connotation was not powerful enough. The system told him that his Taoist connotation would be wiped out if he acquired the pupils of the Fire Eyes and the 8x9 transformation. Then he would inherit that creature's Taoist connotation. Now, Zhu Ke's Taoist connotation was more powerful than before, but it was still not powerful enough to acquire them. However, after the integration of this incomplete rune, he found he could acquire the pupils of the Fire Eyes without influencing his Taoist connotation. This is so interesting. Zhu Ke cheered up and summoned the system to acquire the pupils of the Fire Eyes immediately. He just wanted to know whether this pupils of the Fire Eyes was the legendary piercing eyes, which could look through all transformation arts. Ding! Congratulations to the host in acquiring the pupils of the Fire Eyes successfully. Along with the system's warning tone, Zhu Ke saw the introduction of this magic art in the interface. Pupils of the Fire Eyes, Advanced Moon Rank Magic Art, one of the 5 elements heavenly pupils. The Fire Eyes could establish fire element illusory realms. When all the 5 elements heavenly pupils have reached their summits, The host could establish vivid illusory realms. Holy crap. Zhu Kei's eyes opened wide, for he was been totally shocked. It turned out it was not the piercing eyes at all. It was a fire element pupil art, which could establish the fire element illusory realms. In this way, I could establish vivid illusory realms after acquiring the pupil arts of the rest of the four elements. Right? Damn. Does this mean I could trap someone in an illusory realm forever? Wait. Vivid illusory realms? Could it be that? Zhu Kei was shocked as he remembered the illusory realm that had trapped him and Zixi a fairy for several decades. I guess that illusory realm was established through the complete five elements heavenly pupils. No wonder it was so powerful. Zhu Kei's eyelids twitched. Even the powerful Zixi a fairy couldn't escape from it. Therefore, he guessed even a celestial would be trapped in it. It seems that I, the Actough Saint, am related to the five elements by destiny. Zhu Kei smiled a bit. Then he started to look around and beyond, for he was itchy to have a try. He got a feeling that it was just like getting additional awards from the bottle cap after drinking a Coke. He could get a heritage whenever he opened a restrictive spell core. This time he just controlled one spell core, and his gain was quite fruitful. If he could inherit the rest of the spell cores, he might obtain more windfalls. He could even get the incomplete rune for the 8x9 transformation. Hey, I have a sudden feeling that Earth is just a big treasure house for me. Zhu Kei couldn't help but smile. He decided to travel around the world after finishing all these present issues. However, the most urgent thing now was he should open a gap in the restrictive spell so that he could bring Zhang Hongyan to Earth. Whoosh! Instantly, he opened his magnificent soul strength. Sitting on the altar, he felt he had been merged with the entire Mount Tai. He could control everything in this mountain, including its restrictive spell. Open! He shouted as he pointed at the sky with his fingers. Swish! A strand of dazzling light gushed out. The next moment, a light halo appeared in the space outside Earth, then a gap was opened. Zhu Kei jumped up into the sky by stepping on lightning as he shouted, "Little girl, your man is back." Chapter 905. The Fairy Maiden descends to Earth. Boom! A gap appeared in the restrictive spell. Like a strand of light, Zhu Kei flew out of the atmospheric layer stepping on lightning and reached outer space. Almost at the same time, Zhang Hongyan was also flying toward him. She had been noticing his position for a long time. When the restrictive spell was opened, she knew Zhu Kei was coming. Therefore she left the moon immediately. They met successfully. After having eye contact, they said nothing and just flew toward Earth hand in hand. However, the scene of Zhang Hongyan leaving the moon had been recorded by the satellites of all the nations on Earth. When the pictures were sent back to Earth, a lot of people were immediately frightened. In the space agency of the M Nation, there was a lot of chatter. Oh, my God, Qing has left the moon. Where is she going? Quick, continue the recording with other satellites. We found her. Number 3 satellite saw her. Is she heading for Earth? My God, she is going to land on Earth. Come on. Inform the Air Defense Department. Activate Level 7. No. Activate the highest level alert. Locate her landing position immediately. The M Nation should capture her as soon as possible. She is able to breathe in outer space, so he will provide great help to our colonization of other planets. At the space agency of the H Nation, there was much carrying on. Qing has arrived. She arrived on Earth at last! She is definitely going to save the H Nation! Wait, isn't Qing from Huaxia? No, our historians have studied her. More than half of her bloodline is from our nation. Therefore, she is a celestial of the H Nation! At the space agency of Huaxia, there was concern and awe. Is she really coming? Is she really Qing? This time the satellite that took a picture of her was very close to her. She is so beautiful, even more beautiful than how she is depicted in art. Quick, locate her landing position now. We should escort her back. She is in a foreign country now. Yes, sir. The space departments of all the nations in the world were in a mess. Even a lot of big shots were startled. After all, the appearance of Zhang Hongyan was too startling for the people on Earth. A person could sit on the surface of the moon and fly in outer space without wearing a spacesuit. She must be a celestial. At the same time, Zhu Ke had returned to the summit of Mount Tai, leading Zhang Hongyan. Boom! He opened his soul strength to close the gap tightly by activating the spell core under Mount Tai. The ancient people had set up such a powerful spell for a reason. Maybe it was used to defend themselves or to seal off some powerful enemies. Zhu Ke didn't want to study the detailed reason and break this balance. Therefore, he restored the restrictive spell to what it had been immediately after taking Zhang Hongyan to Earth. However, he didn't realize the balance had been broken when he and Zhang Hongyan landed on Earth. Little brat, is this your hometown? Zhang Hongyan asked in a low voice as she looked around curiously as she landed on the ground. Zhu Ke said, throwing out his chest proudly, right. This place, which covers millions of square miles, is my homeland where I was born and brought up. Zhang Hongyan said with a faint smile as she nodded her head. It is a propitious place with picturesque sceneries and great people. Zhu Ke shook his head. It is a pity that the spiritual chi here is quite sparse, so it is not suitable for cultivation. When I finish my business here, we will go back to the 4 great continents. Okay, you are the boss. Zhang Hongyan said with a smile. Then she asked gently as she fixed her eyes on Zhu Ke, little brat, do people in your homeland dress like you? What? Zhu Ke was surprised, then he realized his hair was cut short and he was in sportswear. He said with a smile as he nodded his head, right. Several hundred years ago, people in my homeland dressed like people in the 4 great continents now, but almost nobody wears those clothes anymore. It doesn't matter, and just don't care about the ideas of others. No, this is your hometown. I should go native. Zhang Hongyan said with a smile as she raised her hand. Then her clothes were changed immediately. The material of her clothes hadn't been changed, but the style and appearance were changed completely into sportswear like what Zhu Ke was wearing. Zhu Ke's eyes and mouth both opened wide immediately. What surprised him was not Zhang Hongyan's magic art but her figure. Her attractive figure was better illustrated by this modern sportswear. Her graceful temperament and extremely beautiful face revealed the intellectual beauty of a mature woman who was elegant and virtuous. Her beauty was impossible to describe with flowery language. Even Zhu Ke, who was used to seeing her naked body in the Tower of Souls, was still shocked by her beauty. Does it look good? Zhang Hongyan asked in a low voice, as she had been amused by Zhu Ke's exaggerated expression. Yes, yes. Zhu Ke nodded his head repeatedly. However, the next moment, he said seriously, I don't think this sportswear suits you well. Little girl, later let's go shopping. I think clothes of other styles would be more suitable for you. Okay. Zhang Hongyan said with a smile. Okay, let's go, and I'll tell you on the way. I think a business suit would suit you well. Black velvet and high heels are essential for a mature woman like you. Oh, you could also try the suits for sailors, nurses, and air hostesses. Right. School wear is also good. All of them are quite fashionable in my hometown. Okay. However, you could only wear them for me at home. When we go out, you should wear cotton padded coat and trousers to keep warm, and it is also a custom of my hometown. Okay. They talked as they walked along. Soon they left the mountain and disappeared into the distance. At this time, the outside world was in a mess. The miraculous hacker attacked the servers of the space agencies of the M Nation and the H Nation. They published the latest satellite pictures on the internet. The internet was in an uproar immediately. In all BBS forums, the keywords like arrival of Qing and fairy maiden Qing landed on Earth ranked at the top of all search engines and the microblog hot topics list. All the netizens around the world were having a fervent discussion about this issue. In the M Nation, these conversations could be heard. My God, is this for real? This is horrible. How could an alien be so beautiful? Nonsense. No matter how beautiful she is about to invade Earth. The H Nation had similar gossip. My God, our beautiful Qing has descended to Earth! Just now the M Nation released the latest news. Qing has landed on Mount Tai of Huaxia. She landed in the wrong place. She should come to the H Nation. Many netizens of the H Nation commented in surprise. Suddenly, they saw an incongruous comment. Damn, how shameless you are. Since when has Ching belonged to the H Nation? Don't you know the truth? This comment was inundated by countless comments from the crazy netizens of H Nation immediately. Why can't Ching belong to our H Nation? Even the experts said Ching has more than half of her bloodline from the H Nation. She is a celestial of our nation. Hey, you. Where are you from? Why do you make trouble in this forum of the H Nation? Are you seeking death? The next moment, a lot of comments in Chinese appeared in the forum. Screw you. People of the H Nation are shameless. Liu Bei of the Exploding Heavens faction sneers at you. What? Are you a fan of the ultimate scheming system? The invincible god of cookery? Just enjoy my scheme. I am Li Zioyo of the Exploding Heavens faction. Humphrey. How dare people of the H Nation insult our Ching? I, Yang Go of the Exploding Heavens faction will challenge you with only one hand. I am LV Bu of the Exploding Heavens faction. I hereby declare war on people of the H Nation. I am Zhao Yun of the Exploding Heavens faction. I hereby declare war on people of the H Nation. Holy crap. Here comes the army of the Exploding Heavens faction. This is horrible. People of the H Nation will drown in the saliva of the Exploding Heavens faction. When you see the Exploding Heavens faction, what you have is only extinction. The Exploding Heavens faction will not only bring you dread, but also leave you with only a single needle and a piece of thread. Hey hey, here comes Wu Kai of the Exploding Heavens faction. Holy crap, Brother Kai is here. Let's shout the slogans. Liu Benwai is awesome. The Exploding Heavens faction is awesome. In a short while, the entire forum of the H Nation was occupied by members of the Exploding Heavens faction and netizens from Huaxia. That day, the government of Huaxia sent people to Mount Tai together with the people of many big families. However, they found nothing. At the same moment, Zhu Ke was flying toward Linshan City with Zhang Hongyan. He planned to go shopping with Zhang Hongyan. However, Kai had sent him a short message that they had gotten news about his younger sister, Zhu Feifei, and asked him to return immediately. Chapter 906. This is my woman. The sudden short message from Kai had really surprised Zhu Ke. After a year's investigation, they had found some information at last. Of course, even if they hadn't found any information, Zhu Ke would still have been able to find Zhu Feifei. He just didn't know how to face her. After all, she was his younger sister. He had left for more than 6 years, and everyone thought he was dead. If he appeared in front of her suddenly, she might be badly scared. Therefore, Zhu Ke tried to ensure Zhu Feifei's safety and know about her recent situation. Whoosh! At last, Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan landed in Linshan City. According to the address provided by Qi, he found their meeting place was the Dao Ding restaurant. Because they were in a hurry, Zhu Ke didn't want to be conspicuous. Therefore, they chose to become invisible on their way. Nobody sensed their arrival. At the same time, in a private room of the Dao Ding restaurant, K, Huang Qing, and Liu Zili were sitting at the table. The atmosphere was quite weird. Kai especially was confused at this time. Huang Qing and Liu Zili had told him that Zhu Ke had been killed in a car accident 6 years ago. Everyone thought Zhu Ke was dead. Now, Zhu Ke was back. However, it seemed he was suffering some mental diseases. Kai didn't believe it at the very beginning. After hearing their narration, he started to become dubious. Last year, when Zhu Ke contacted him, he felt Zhu Ke was a little bit weird. After receiving the movie made by Zhu Ke, he hadn't heard from him until several days ago. Moreover, what Zhu Ke had told him was also quite weird. For example, he used to say, "All people are ants and I've been performing cultivation in these years," which would be treated as jokes by reasonable people. However, Zhu Ke even told Lin Yuxi that the fairy maiden on the moon was his woman, which made everyone think he was a psycho. As a saying goes, there is a small difference between a talented individual and a psycho. Van Gogh was a psycho, and he produced so many masterworks. Could it be that the success of Zhu Ke's movie was because he was also a psycho? Kai said in puzzlement. Director K, just stop guessing and trust us. Huang Qing shook his head and exclaimed, Anyway, when he arrives, let's sit and talk together, and you'll know everything. Actually, I also believe Zhu Ke has lost his mind. Kai let out a deep sigh. Alas, it seems that he suffered a lot during these years. 6 years ago, I was still away in a foreign country. I didn't realize that he had experienced all of that and was separated from his younger sister for such a long time. Liu Zili picked up her cup and took a sip. Then she said casually, he escaped from death because of his good luck. Before this, you blamed Lin Yuxi. Just look what she did. She spent money to find the best mental hospital for Zhu Ke. When she knew Zhu Feifei had returned to Huaxia, she left for the capital city immediately. Hey, I think this is something she should do. Anyway, Zhu Ke had been plotted against in secret because of her, right? Huang Qing said with a cold smile. Although what she did seems quite generous, she's just trying to make up for the guilt in her heart. Why do you say that, Huang Qing? He was plotted against in secret because he was weak. Why do you blame Lin Yuxi for that? Liu Zili opened her eyes wide. The two of them were about to start a quarrel. Kai said hurriedly, okay, that's enough. Just cut the crap. It is quite generous for Miss Lin to do that. By the way, is the mental hospital's van coming? Liu Zili nodded. Yes, I've told the doctor of the mental hospital. I guess they will come soon. Later, you should take your friend Zhu Ke into the van. I'm afraid his mental state could scare Yuxi someday. Damn, we can't take him to the hospital. We haven't confirmed he is a psycho. Anyway, let me talk with Zhu Ke first. Kai didn't know what to say. Huang Qing and Liu Zili were too reckless. They guessed Zhu Ke was a psycho, so they decided to send him to the mental hospital. Liu Zili rolled her eyes. Do you think I want to do this? If Yuxi hadn't asked me to help her, I wouldn't have used my relationship to do this. This is one of the best mental hospitals in Huaxia. Normal patients can't afford it. While the three of them were talking, Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan had stepped into the Dao Ding restaurant. At the entrance of the restaurant they cancelled the invisibility art and walked into the restaurant fair and square. Welcome to our... A waitress, who was going to welcome guests routinely, was dumbfounded before finishing her words. She looked at Zhang Hongyan, widening her eyes. R'_T.U. Fairy Qing, me? Zhang Hongyan was surprised. Apparently, she didn't know she had become Fairy Qing, who was famous around Huaxia. Just ignore her. Let's go. Zhu Ke smiled as he entered by holding Zhang Hongyan's hand. Then he waved his hand in front of the waitress. The waitress was stunned on the spot. When Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan walked into the lift, the waitress came to herself and went back to the entrance to welcome the guests as if nothing had happened. I didn't expect all the things in your hometown could be so interesting. Zhang Hongyan walked into the lift and looked around curiously. Zhu Ke had shown her a lot of things that could be operated freely without the activation of true core strength. Now she realized everything in his hometown was like that. Although there were no cultivators in this world, the ordinary people were living happily. At least the ordinary people here were much happier than the ordinary people in the world of cultivators. If we can take these technologies back, I believe the life of the ordinary people in the world of cultivators will be better and better. Zhang Hongyan murmured thoughtfully. She cared about the people in the world of cultivators even when she was on Earth. After all, she used to be the Empress of the Water Nation on the Xuanzan continent. Zhu Ke smiled. I'm afraid this will take a long time. Knowledge is the #1 productive force. We should popularize the knowledge of math, physics, and chemistry to the ordinary people of the Five Elements Mountain. Okay. Zhang Hongyan nodded with a smile. Ding. At this time, the lift had arrived at the level of where Zhu Ke's friends were dining. Zhu Ke walked out as he held Zhang Hongyan's hand. Welcome to the... The waitress outside the lift came up to greet them warmly. However, when she saw Zhang Hongyan, she was also stunned. They wouldn't have been so surprised and shocked even if they had seen celebrities. The Qing Fairy? My god, the Qing Fairy is in our restaurant. Zhu Ke ignored these people. He walked into the corridor holding Zhang Hongyan's hand. Zhang Hongyan asked curiously, little brat, why are they so surprised? It seems all of them know me. Zhu Ke smiled. Then he told Zhang Hongyan about the satellite photos. Hearing that, Zhang Hongyan realized that people in this world hadn't met cultivators before, or at least, they didn't know about the existence of cultivators. They arrived at the compartment Kai had booked as they talked. When Zhu Ke was about to knock on the door, he heard the conversation in the room. Huang Qing, Miss Liu, when Zhu Ke arrives, please don't say anything stupid. Let me do the talking. Director K, I can't agree with you. Even if Zhu Ke is really a psycho, I, Huang Qing, will still treat him as my friend. How could I say something stupid? Please don't mention the psycho. We haven't confirmed it yet. Hey, Director K, don't blame my rudeness. Zhu Ke said Qing Fairy on the moon is his woman. Isn't he a psycho? Anyway, that Qing Fairy is quite incredible. Now she is so popular on the internet since she landed on Mount Tai. What? On Mount Tai? What a coincidence. Kai was surprised for he remembered Zhu Ke had asked him to seal the mountain. Suddenly, Kai realized something and said in shock, could it be that? Knock knock. At this time, someone knocked on the door. Then the door was opened. The three of them turned around at the same time. They saw Zhu Ke in front of them with a big smile as he held Zhang Hongyan's hand. Then Zhu Ke said, K, let me introduce Zhang Hongyan, who is my woman, to you. Oh, by the way, she has just came to Earth from the moon. Chapter 907. It turns out that he is also a celestial. Swish. All of a sudden, the entire compartment was dead silent. Time seemed to stop flowing. K, Huang Qing, and Liu Zili sat dumbfounded in their chairs as they looked in surprise at Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan at the entrance. They were totally scared and almost out of their minds. Isn't his extremely beautiful, graceful, and elegant woman Qing Fairy found by the satellites on the moon? I remember hearing that she just landed on Mount Tai. How could they arrive at Linshan City in such a short time? More important, how could she have become Zhu Ke's woman? Am I dreaming? Could it be that what Zhu Ke said before is true? At the thought of this, the three of them were even more shocked. After all, what they saw now wouldn't even have appeared in their wildest imaginations. Hey, why are you looking at us in this way? I think I've told you about her before. You should call her sister. Zhu Ke smiled as he walked into the compartment holding Zhang Hongyan's hand. The three of them couldn't help it. Their mouths were wide open in surprise. Indeed, we have heard about her before, but nobody believed that what you said was true. Nobody expected you could find a fairy to be your woman. What the hell is going on? Sister. Hi. My name is Huang Qing. I used to be Zhu Ke's high school classmate. This is the first time for me to meet you. Huang Qing stood up and introduced himself discreetly. Then, he turned to Zhu Ke and said in embarrassment, Sorry, Zhu Ke, this is the first time for me to see a celestial. I am so nervous that I even don't know what to say. Then, Kai also said nervously, Sister, I am Chi, and I used to be Zhu Ke's classmate in junior middle school. Now I am a director. It's nice to meet you. Only Liu Zili was still sitting there in surprise and shock. She never expected she could meet such a perfect woman in her life. As a woman from an eminent family background, she thought no woman could be better than she was. Now she felt a sense of inferiority in front of Zhang Hongyan. She is just perfect. She is just extraordinary. Liu Zili's heart was full of envy and shock. In this weird atmosphere, Zhang Hongyan stayed quiet and calm. An aura gushed out from her naturally when she sat there. Even though she was wearing sportswear, she was still quite elegant and graceful. Make yourself at home. Please sit down. Zhang Hongyan replied with a smile. Huang Qing and Kai smiled obsequiously and sat down. This was the first time for them in their lives. Before this, they had never expected that they would have dinner with a celestial. K, let's talk about the business first. Where is my younger sister? Zhu Ke didn't want to waste his time with small talk, so he cut to the chase directly. Kai sat up and said, Zhu, actually, it was Miss Lin who got the news about your younger sister. Today is the school anniversary of your university. Your younger sister, who received an invitation, has returned to Huaxia the day before yesterday. After finding that out, Miss Lin asked me to find you. Then she left for capital city and was going to find your younger sister and bring her to you. School anniversary? Zhu Ke was surprised a bit. Did she say anything else, such as about the recent situation of my younger sister? No, but don't worry, we'll call her immediately. I just don't know whether she has gotten off the plane yet. Miss Liu, please call her now, Kai said, looking at Liu Zili to suggest she call Lin Yuxi immediately. Oh, okay. Liu Zili came to herself and started to dial Lin Yuxi's number. Soon, however, she hung up the phone and said as she looked at Zhu Ke helplessly, "Her phone is off now. I guess she is still on the plane." "It's okay, I'll go to Capital City myself." Zhu Ke nodded his head slightly and decided to go himself and find his sister. Anyway, Lin Yuxi was about to find Zhu Feifei, who would then know the news that he was still alive soon. In this case, he wouldn't worry so much about how to face her. At the worst, he would tell Zhu Feifei that he was a cultivator and was about to take her back to the world of cultivators. "Are you leaving for Capital City? Let me book flight tickets for you," Huang Qing said as he took out his phone. "That won't be necessary. Planes are too slow for me." Zhu Ke smiled as he stood up from his chair holding Zhang Hongyan's hand. The three people sitting there with them were startled. "Planes are too slow? Then what will you take, the high-speed trains?" While they were still in a daze, Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan walked to the French windows in the room. Zhu Ke waved his hand at the French window slightly. Whoosh, the window glass melted like ice suddenly. Then, dazzling lightning appeared beneath Zhu Ke's feet. "Ke, Huang, talk to you another day. We'll leave now." Zhu Ke turned around and smiled at the three of them. Then he jumped up into the sky through the window, holding on to Zhang Hongyan. The next moment, they had disappeared up in the sky. This sudden scene scared the three of them out of their wits. As a famous director who had made countless movies, Kai was still dumbfounded watching this scene with his own eyes. Huang Qing and Liu Zili opened their mouths wide and couldn't speak a word because of the shock. The entire deluxe compartment was in a dead silence. Knock knock knock. At this time, someone knocked at the door. Then the door was opened. Several people in white lab coats who looked like doctors and nurses walked in. "Hello, we are from number 1 mental hospital of Linshan City. Who is the patient, please?" a doctor asked. The three people in this room, who were still shocked by Zhu Ke, came to themselves and started to stare at each other. Huang Qing said, as he looked at Kai and Liu Zili in terror, "Did you see that?" Zhu Ke waved his hand and the glass disappeared. "And he is able to fly. He just flew away by stepping on lightning." It turns out that he is also a celestial. Liu Zili, who was also greatly shocked, collapsed into her chair. They knew Zhang Hongyan was a fairy maiden, but they didn't expect Zhu Ke could also use magic arts. The three of them were frightened completely. All reasonable people in this world would be startled when they saw a scene such as this. An old classmate who has disappeared for several years and has now returned with a fairy maiden, and he is able to fly. This is really marvelous. A celestial? Fly? Their conversation was heard by the doctors and nurses from the mental hospital. After making eye contact, the doctors said to the nurse behind them, nodding their heads, "The three of them are patients. Come on, take them to the van." The male nurses took out some white cloths and started to walk toward Kai, Huang Qing, and Liu Zili. The three of them realized something was wrong immediately, so they began to shout, "No, you made a mistake. We are not psychos," the doctors said, shaking their heads. "The psychos will never admit they are suffering from mental diseases. Please be cooperative, and let's talk about your diseases when we get back to the hospital." "What the hell? You have really made a mistake. The real psycho. No, he is not a psycho, he is a celestial. He has flown away." "Damn, how could you deny you are psychos? Come on, take them back. Their mental diseases are quite complicated." Chapter 908, Back to School. That day, at the international airport of Capital City, Lin Yuxi arrived and then walked out of the airport dragging a small suitcase. Her simple, crisp businesswear revealed her aura as a businesswoman. With a fashionable pair of sunglasses on her face, she looked like a chic, beautiful celebrity. She took out her mobile phone and pressed the power key, but nothing happened. "Last night I was in a hurry and forgot to recharge my phone." "Forget it. I'll head for the university directly." she murmured in a low voice. Then she hailed a taxi and headed for Capital University directly. Capital University was one of the top universities in Huaxia. Most graduates of this university had become the elites and big shots of society. Lin Yuxi's current accomplishments should not only be attributed to her abilities and efforts, but also to the golden content of the Capital University's graduation certificate. However, even though she had become the CEO of the Liu Group's Southern China branch, she didn't receive an invitation letter from the Capital University for the school anniversary. Only big shots who had achieved outstanding accomplishments in certain fields could be invited. Now, Zhu Feifei was a PhD in a famous foreign research center. It was said that she had managed to develop a medicine that could elongate people's lives. The medicine had passed the international certification. When Lin Yuxi heard this last night from her old classmates, she was surprised, for she hadn't expected Zhu Feifei would be so successful. Zhu Feifei deserved the invitation letter from the university. Zhu Ke would be content with Zhu Feifei's accomplishments. Lin Yuxi thought to herself in the taxi. The pressure of her guilt over Zhu Ke, which had tortured her for many years, disappeared completely. Soon, her taxi arrived at the Capital University. Besides the graduates who had actually received invitations, most of the rest of the graduates would also participate in this activity. After all, it was a school anniversary. Many people wanted to go back to visit the campus and see their old classmates. Of course, they would also grab this opportunity to meet some big shots. Lin Yuxi also planned to participate in this activity. Therefore, she had contacted some of her old classmates last night. She didn't expect that she could get news about Zhu Feifei. When she did, she decided to come to Capital City immediately. As she was walked onto the campus, her heart was filled with all kinds of emotions. She had graduated several years ago, but the campus hadn't changed a lot. Things that had happened here were still vivid in her mind. When she passed a pool, she remembered it was the love corner of the school. Many lovebirds would talk love on the chairs beside the pool. In those years, she and Zhu Ke used to come here to talk about life and dreams holding each other's hands. However, most of the time she would be amused by Zhu Ke's words. His words still could even make her smile now. What a pity. The god of destiny makes fools of people. Our predestined relationship was finished at last. Just let it go. She shook her head and walked toward the central building of the university. Graduates who participated in the school anniversary had to register first. Then they could enjoy the show in the great hall behind the central building. Lin Yuxi's mobile phone was off now. She had to register her information first. Then she would try to contact Zhu Feifei by borrowing a mobile phone from one of her classmates. Hey, Lin Yuxi. As she walked into the central building, a voice came from behind her. Lin Yuxi turned around and found several of her male and female classmates. The one who had called out to her was a female classmate who had had a good relationship with her during their school days. However, the three male classmates with her made Lin Yuxi a little bit embarrassed, because they were Zhu Ke's former roommates, Zhang Derong, Su Ziolian, and Wang Jin. Wow, Yuxi, it's you. Long time no see. When did you come back to Huaxia? After recognizing Lin Yuxi, the female classmate ran up to her in surprise. Lin Yuxi replied with a smile, I've just come back for a few days. We lost touch with you after you went abroad. We should have a good chat today, the female classmate said with a smile. At this time, Zhang Derong, Su Ziolian, and Wang Jin just walked toward the stairway, ignoring Lin Yuxi directly. After a short hesitation, Lin Yuxi said, Mr. Zhang, please hold on for a moment. The three of them were stunned a bit, then they stopped and turned around to Lin Yuxi. Hey, it turns out that our school beauty still remembers us. It is really a great honor, Zhang Derong said coldly. Wang Jin also ridiculed her. Miss Lin, I remember you said you didn't know us before our graduation, right? Lin Yuxi hesitated for a while. Then she said, no matter whether you believe it or not, I said I didn't know you for your own good. Also, I have something to tell you. Hey, Miss Lin, just forget it. We only want to know one thing. For the rest of the things, we are not interested. Su Zioliang snorted. Then the three of them turned around and walked away. All of a sudden, Lin Yuxi said. What I wanted to say is that Zhu Ke is still alive. Swish. Instantly, the three of them stopped walking and turned around abruptly in surprise. Zhu Ke is not dead? He is still alive? How could this be? Even the rest of the classmates in this area were also shocked. They looked at Lin Yuxi in disbelief. It's true, he is alive. I met him in Linshan City several days ago. But Lin Yuxi paused a bit. Then she told them the news that Zhu Ke might suffer from mental disease. This time I am here to find Zhu Feifei and take her to her elder brother. This is the only and last thing I could do to make up to Zhu Ke. From now on, I hope I could even things out with him, and both of us could go back to our own lives respectively. After saying that, Lin Yuxi went upstairs to register her information. Zhang Derong and the rest of the classmates standing around were still in a daze. They couldn't believe Lin Yuxi's words. Zhu Ke is not dead. Could this be true? But it doesn't make sense. We've seen his body in the hospital. Could it be that something happened after that? Someone saved his life, but his brain was damaged in the car accident, so he became a psycho since then? All the classmates started to talk about this issue. Zhang Derong, Su Xiaolian, and Wang Jin's faces got dark and they said angrily, "What are you talking about? He is not a psycho." The rest of the classmates replied with wry smiles, "What the hell? Is it really necessary to be so agitated?" Just now Lin Yuxi said Zhu Ke claimed Qing Fairy was his woman. Doesn't that make him sound like a psycho? At least, maybe, he is suffering from paranoia. It's really unnecessary to be so agitated. Anyway, mental diseases are not something shameful, right? We are also Zhu Ke's old classmates. When we have time, we will visit him and do our best to help him. At the same time, on the little pass in the hills behind the capital university, two figures landed on the ground from the sky, Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan. Nobody was around at this time, so their appearance didn't cause any panic and mess. Interesting. It seems a treasury item is hiding in this area. Zhu Ke started to look around after landing on the ground. Just now he sensed some spiritual qi, which disappeared in a flash. Zhang Hongyan was puzzled. "Little girl, what's wrong?" Zhu Ke asked immediately when he saw her expression. Zhang Hongyan shook her head and said in a low voice, "I also sensed that spiritual qi just now, which even resonated with the celestial artifact in my body." "What?" Zhu Ke was surprised immediately. Only a celestial artifact could resonate with another celestial artifact. Could it be that another celestial artifact is hiding in the hills behind the capital university? Chapter 909, Another half of the celestial artifact. Little brat, my celestial artifact is not complete. I only have half of it. Zhang Hongyan said in a low voice as she raised her hand. Light appeared in her palm. Then, a semicircular yellow jade pendant appeared. A faint halo was glowing on the jade pendant, which was antique and full of spiritual qi. Zhu Ke was surprised. This jade pendant was Zhang Hongyan's celestial artifact. She had managed to reincarnate because of it, and it also forged her great kismet. However, Zhu Ke was confused because he didn't expect that Zhang Hongyan's celestial artifact was incomplete. Just now resonance occurred in this jade pendant. Could it be that the other half of this jade pendant is in this hill? Zhu Ke asked in surprise. Zhang Hongyan nodded her head slightly. My mother in my past life left this celestial artifact to me. It has been this way till now. I didn't expect it could resonate with something in your hometown, but it is quite weird that the spiritual qi disappeared immediately. Maybe someone with the other half of the jade pendant used to be here. Or your jade pendant was taken away from this area. Zhu Ke said seriously. Anyway, it could reveal the extraordinary history of Earth. Powerful big shots used to stay in this area. Let me try to activate this jade and see whether we could sense that spiritual qi again. Zhang Hongyan said in a low voice as she waved her hand. Whoosh! The jade in her hand lit up immediately and a strand of dazzling light gushed out of it. The next moment, the jade started to vibrate with a light buzz. Then, the light became more dazzling. It was turned into a strand of golden light, which dashed toward a hill which was not far away. Got it. Zhang Hongyan looked up instantly. Zhu Ke was dumbfounded. This is way too easy. Is her kismet always so lucky? This is really unbelievable. Normally, when someone is about to find a treasury item, adventures, dangers, and even monsters are always waiting. Zhang Hongyan was so lucky that she could find another half of her celestial artifact as soon as she arrived on Earth in such an easy way. Little girl, I really envy your good luck, Zhu Ke said. He really felt quite jealous. Zhang Hongyan replied with a smile, let's go there and have a look. They dashed toward the hill immediately. According to the guidance of Zhang Hongyan's semicircular jade, they found the other half of the jade, which lay buried in the mud under their feet. There is a restrictive spell here. When Zhu Ke approached, he found a restrictive spell was hidden underground. However, this restrictive spell was not very powerful. They broke it in a short time. Little brat, I'll stay here to break the restrictive spell. You just go and find your younger sister, Zhang Hongyan said to Zhu Ke with the jade in her hand. Zhu Ke shook his head. No. There is a restrictive spell here. Maybe it is used to protect the tomb or abode of some ancient cultivators. They could endanger you. It doesn't matter. I don't want to break the restrictive spell. I sensed some ancient runes from this jade. I guess they are from the other half of it. I'm afraid I have to wait for a while before I can get all of those runes, Zhang Hongyan said in a low voice. Zhu Ke was shocked a bit. Then he looked at the jade in Zhang Hongyan's hand. As expected, a lot of runes were gushing out from the ground and flowing into the jade pendant. You just go. I'll stay here for a short while. When I get all the runes, I will come to you, Zhang Hongyan said. She knew Zhu Ke cared about Zhu Feifei very much, so she asked him to go without her. Moreover, it was quiet in this area. As long as the restrictive spell was not broken, she wouldn't be endangered by anything. Therefore, she decided to wait until she could obtain all the runes. Then, she would check what was hiding in the runes. After that, no matter what happened, she would go to Zhu Ke. After all, for her, Zhu Ke's family member was more important than anything else. If no runes were flowing into her jade pendant, and it could be put away, she would have put aside this issue immediately and gone with Zhu Ke to find his younger sister first. Zhu Ke hesitated a bit. He knew those runes wouldn't be received in a short time, so he nodded his head and said, okay, please finish it and come to me as soon as possible. As for the restrictive spell, we will handle it later. He was quite assured. The entire capital university and the hills behind it were within the detection scope of his soul's strength, so he didn't worry about Zhang Hongyan's safety at all. Of course, if something dangerous really happened, he could come here instantly. Also, Zhang Hongyan was at least as powerful as he was, so he didn't really need to worry at all. Moreover, he was about to find Zhu Feifei in the campus. If Zhang Hongyan showed up with him right at the start, the entire university would be shocked. Not only was he back from the dead, but he had a fairy with him. At that time, they would be surrounded by many people, which was quite troublesome. Just don't worry, I'll come to you soon. Zhang Hongyan nodded her head with a smile. Okay. Zhu Ke also replied with a smile. Then he dashed toward the campus of the capital university by stepping on lightning. Boom. When Zhang Hongyan saw Zhu Ke had left, she started to look at the semicircular jade in her hand thoughtfully, where the runes were still flowing in the golden light. At this time, in the central building, many graduates had come back for the school anniversary, so the campus was bustling. Zhang Derong, Su Xiaoliang, and Wang Jin were still talking about Zhu Ke in front of the central building in surprise. Number 1, what is your opinion? It seems Lin Yuxi didn't lie to us. As she said, Zhu Ke could really be alive. But why didn't he contact us? Could it be that he has lost his mind, as Lin Yuxi said? They started to worry a bit. At this time, several classmates beside them started to laugh. Ha ha. How could you have the nerve to say you were Zhu Ke's roommates? Look, Lin Yuxi is the first one to discover Zhu Ke is not dead. Anyway, you can't blame Lin Yuxi for that accident, right? No matter if it was an accident or not, we don't need to investigate that anymore. As long as Zhu Ke is alive, everything is fine. Also, it is quite nice for Lin Yuxi to do that. Their relationship only lasted for less than a year. If I were her, I wouldn't care about this issue at all. Exactly. She even found a mental hospital for him and tried to find his younger sister. I have to say Lin Yuxi has done her best for Zuke. Damn. How could you compare with the school beauty? Haha. Everyone is different. Those classmates made fun of each other, laughing all the time. Only Zhang Derong, Su Zioliang, and Wang Jin stared at each other speechlessly, for this was too weird for them. Screech. At this time, a near-piercing breaking sound shocked everyone in the surrounding area. Hearing that, people in the building turned around and were surprised. A brand new sports car was parked outside the building. Chapter 910, Did I Get Out on the Wrong Side of Bed Today? At Capital University, luxury cars were common, but sports cars were quite rare. Besides the students and teachers, those who would usually appear on the campus were mainly the successful graduates. Most of the luxury cars driven by them were elegant and graceful commercial vehicles. Only the pampered kids of the rich would drive luxury sports cars. Today, the appearance of this luxury sports car during the university's annual school day drew much attention from the students right away. Then, the door of the car opened, and a man and a woman stepped out. Holy shit, that's an Aston Martin. Its owner must be a billionaire. Wang Jin shouted in surprise. What? Wait, isn't the girl Li Zioxiao from our class? I didn't expect that she would be so rich. The girl beside Zhang Derong exclaimed. Wang Jin said embarrassedly, you are quite stupid. You can easily tell that this car belongs to the man beside her. Look, the man looks familiar. Zhang Derong frowned suddenly. Su Zioliang's face darkened. I know him. His name is Ziyan Hai, who is 2 years younger than us. A member of the Zia family? Yes. Su Zioliang nodded. The onlookers opened their eyes wide in surprise. All of them knew there was only one Zia family in capital city, which was also quite famous in Huaxia. The businesses of this family covered many industries, from finance, real estate, and oil refining to restaurants and hotels. It was considered a very prominent family in Huaxia. I didn't expect that Li Zioxiao would start a relationship with a member of the Zia family. Now her future is very rosy. A classmate said enviously. Wow, it seems we will have a lot of fun today. Quite a long time ago, Li Zioxiao was in conflict with Lin Yuxi, who was the #1 beautiful girl of the school. Li Zioxiao, who was ranked as the #2 beautiful girl of the school, always refused to admit that. Alas, I guess she will catch up with and surpass Lin Yuxi through her relationship with the Zia family. No, that's not correct. Zia Luoqing, the eldest son of the Zia family, used to pursue Lin Yuxi. However, he was rejected by her. People continued to talk about this issue. Zhang Derong, Su Zioliang, and Wang Jin all had thunderous looks on their faces at this moment. A lot of young men from rich families used to pursue Lin Yuxi in past years. Among them, Zia Luoqing was the most extraordinary one, who could almost be considered as the #1 young master in capital city. Therefore, they always doubted that the car accident which killed Zuke was related to Zia Luoqing. However, after the car accident, Zia Luoqing disappeared right away. The three of them had failed to find any clues linking the gigantic Zia family. After that, they started to focus on Ziyan Hai and tried to find some clues by investigating him. They didn't realize that they were spotted by Ziyan Hai's bodyguards when their investigation was just started. After being beaten cruelly, the three of them had to stay in the hospital for 3 months. They had to give up trying to find out what happened to Zuke after realizing the gap in power between them and the Zia family. Today, Su Zioliang recognized Ziyan Hai immediately, which made him quite angry. Angry as Zhang Derong and Wang Jin were, they didn't dare to provoke Ziyan Hai again. After their graduation, they started to have a better understanding of the cruelty of this society, as well as the gap between them and the kids of those rich families. If they rushed up to provoke Ziyan Hai, they might be beaten up again and end up back in the hospital before even getting close to him. Hi, my old classmates. How are you? At this time, the well-dressed Li Zioxiao, who was holding Ziyan Hai's arm, walked into the crowd of people. Li Zioxiao was quite proud and happy to see the dumbfounded expressions of her old classmates. as if all of these had been expected by her. At this moment, the onlookers also came to themselves. A girl shouted immediately, "Wow, Xiao, long time no see. You're even more attractive these days. You are so beautiful. I hardly recognized you. Is this your boyfriend? He is so handsome. You're really a perfect match." Many onlookers started to greet them. The background of Xianhai was attractive enough for them to try and please Li Xiao by putting down their dignity. Li Xiao was quite happy to see that, for it was the only reason she had attended the school day activity. Xianhai was still fiddling with his phone and ignored the onlookers completely. For him, these people were even less interesting than his phone. If Li Xiao hadn't insisted on coming here, he wouldn't have even bothered to came to the university. I've heard Yuxi will also be here. Where is she? It's been a long time. I really miss her. Li Xiao started to look around and asked with a faint smile. Today, she also planned to embarrass her old foe. Hearing that, the onlookers smiled secretly to themselves as they had figured out her purpose. Tack, tack, tack. At this time, when the onlookers were about to tell Li Xiao that Lin Yuxi was upstairs, footsteps could be heard from the stairs. A figure in a neat business suit stepped out. It was Lin Yuxi. The onlookers fixed their eyes on her as they stopped their gossiping. It was just like when you were gossiping about someone and this person showed up suddenly. It made you feel guilty immediately. Li Xiao looked at Lin Yuxi in surprise. Her heart was filled with the flame of jealousy. Several years had passed. She didn't expect that Lin Yuxi would still be so charming. After her graduation, Lin Yuxi was no longer an innocent girl, but a charming and mature lady. Xianhai was still fiddling with his phone. When he sensed the onlookers around them becoming silent, he looked up in surprise. Then, he too was stunned by Lin Yuxi's beauty. When he was still a college boy, he was attracted by Lin Yuxi. However, he knew Xiao Luoqing, his cousin, was also pursuing Lin Yuxi, so he had to give up his idea. He didn't expect he would still be attracted by her when he saw her again in this place. "Wow, Miss Lin, long time no see." Li Xiao greeted Lin Yuxi. Meanwhile, she pressed Xianhai's arm on her bosom tightly as if she was announcing Xianhai was her man, which was also to embarrass Lin Yuxi. "Hi, Xiao, long time no see." Lin Yuxi replied with a faint smile, after being surprised a bit. Then, she walked out from the stairs. She had figured out Li Xiao's plan. However, she was not in the mood to play this childish game with Li Xiao. She was about to search for Zuf in the main hall. Li Xiao didn't want to let Lin Yuxi go so easily. She said immediately, "Wait, Miss Lin, after so many years, why do you still remain single? Don't tell me you still have no boyfriend." After saying that, Li Xiao covered her mouth suddenly and pretended she was sorry. "Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot your boyfriend died several years ago. I've heard he killed himself in a car accident after you broke up with him. It was really a pity. How could you like such a cowardly man?" "Wait, what was his name again?" "Zhu Ke?" Her mean words embarrassed everyone in the area. Lin Yuxi started to look really angry. Su Xiaoliang and Wang Jin clenched their fists from anger. Zhang Derong was so angry that he was even about to scold Li Xiao. However, a sneer could be heard from outside the building's gate at this time. Hey, did I get out on the wrong side of bed today? Why did I hear Dumos say I was dead just now?" Chapter 911. The big devil Zhu Ke is back. The sudden sneer stunned everyone in the building like deafening thunder. Everyone fixed their eyes on the entrance. Then, they were dumbfounded by what they saw. A young man appeared in front of them. His angular and handsome face was quite familiar. In his face, though, the immaturity had been replaced by a strand of sophistication. However, a strand of arrogance could still be sensed. Zhu Ke didn't die. He is back. All his college classmates were totally surprised, especially Zhang Derong, Su Xiaoliang, and Wang Jin. They were so shocked that they didn't believe what they were seeing. Before this, they thought Lin Yuxi had been trying to fool them. However, now they believed that Zhu Ke didn't die. But the problem was that how could this normally behaved guy, who was even more handsome than he was before the car accident, Be a psycho. At this time, Li Xiaoxiao, who came back to herself, screamed at the top of her lungs. She kept stepping back, dragging Xianhai's arm tightly as she looked at Zhu Ke in fear as if a ghost was standing in front of her. Li Xiaoxiao, what's wrong with you? Xianhai looked at Li Xiaoxiao and frowned. Li Xiaoxiao's reaction was completely exaggerated. Xianhai's admission to the university was 2 years after Zhu Ke's death. He didn't know Zhu Ke, but the onlookers in this area and Li Xiaoxiao knew Zhu Ke and knew about that car accident. Before this, Lin Yuxi had told the onlookers that Zhu Ke didn't die. Therefore, they were just shocked by Zhu Ke's appearance but nothing else. Also, they could understand Li Xiaoxiao's exaggerated reaction. Because she was late and didn't get the advance notification from Lin Yuxi, she was totally freaked out when she saw Zhu Ke. However, the onlookers didn't know the reason why Li Xiaoxiao was so scared. She was pretty sure Zhu Ke was dead. She had witnessed Zhu Ke's car accident. She even saw the car roll back and forth on Zhu Ke's body several times after knocking him down. Then, the car was driven away after confirming Zhu Ke's death. Li Xiaoxiao also saw the driver of the car. After knowing the driver was from the Xia family, she hid the secret in her heart discreetly and never mentioned it to anyone, including her current boyfriend Xianhai. She knew the style of Xia Luoqing, who was the eldest son of the Xia family, quite well. If she disclosed this secret to others, she would have to say goodbye to this world. Therefore, she kept her mouth shut and had almost forgotten this secret. However, she never expected Zhu Ke, who had been killed cruelly, could stand in front of her full of life and energy. He was not even scratched. It was as if that car accident had never happened. A ghost. Ghost. Li Xiaoxiao, who was shaking all over in terror, said in a trembling voice as she grabbed Xianhai's arm tightly. A ghost? What are you talking about? Xianhai frowned as he turned to Zhu Ke. Zhu Ke smiled and said with a cold smile as he stared at Li Xiaoxiao, "It seems you know something, Li Xiaoxiao." I don't know, I know nothing." Li Xiaoxiao turned pale and kept stepping back in terror. "Forget it, I'm not going to interrogate you." Zhu Ke smiled and looked away. He didn't care about what Li Xiaoxiao knew at all. He knew the planner of the car accident which killed him was Xia Luoqing. That was enough. "Who are you? You've scared my girlfriend. You should make an apology in 3 seconds." Xianhai said coldly as he looked at Zhu Ke at this time. Zhu Ke ignored Xianhai directly. Then, he said as he looked at Zhang Derong, Su Xiaoliang, and Wang Jin with a smile, "Buddies, I'm back. Are you happy? Are you surprised? I just want to know, is it awesome?" "Holy crap!" the 3 of them shouted at the same time. "That's him. That's exactly Zhu Ke. Only Zhu Ke could be so arrogant and wicked." "Crap, you played dead. Damn, you've disappeared for over 6 years. We will celebrate your return for the whole night today. We will drown you with beer." They rushed up to Zhu Ke. One of them bent his arms around Zhu Ke's neck. Another one grabbed Zhu Ke's hands, while the last one lifted Zhu Ke up directly. Their hearts were filled with mixed feelings, excitement, anger, joy, and shock. Then, all these feelings were replaced by wild joy. Their old buddy didn't die and had returned alive. For them, this was a whopping joyful event. At the same time, Lin Yuxi was looking at all the guys who were hugging one another blankly. She was confused, for that naughty and wicked Zhu Ke who always had a sunny smile had returned. Is he really a psycho or is he acting dumb? Just now he was so strange and cold in front of me. Why is he so amiable and kind now as he was in those years? Could it be that he did that deliberately? At the thought of this, Lin Yuxi was a little bit frustrated. "Hey, I am talking to you. Are you deaf? Do you know who I am?" Xianhai shouted loudly as he stared at Zhu Ke coldly at this time. Zhu Ke didn't want to reply to him at all. If his hands had not been held by Zhang Derong, he would have smashed that annoying guy to death. Xianhai was so angry because of Zhu Ke's defiance. His face darkened and he said with a smile as he pointed at Zhu Ke angrily, "Good, you're toast. If I can't break one of your legs today, I will change my family name." After saying that, he took out his phone and dialed a number. Seeing that, The onlookers stepped back quietly as they exclaimed to themselves at Zukei's bad luck. He had survived the car accident 6 years ago, but he provoked the Xia family upon his return. Maybe his legs will really be broken this time. Li Xiaoxiao had calmed down at this time. After knowing Zukei was not a ghost who sought revenge in this world, she let out a sigh of relief. Now she was not afraid of Zukei. As Xianhai's girlfriend, she could be deemed as a half-member of the Xia family. It was unnecessary to be scared by Zukei. Moreover, Xianhai had been annoyed. She knew Zukei wouldn't leave this place on his legs. At the thought of this, Li Xiaoxiao sneered to herself. Zukei, Capital University is large, but the Xia family is larger. Do you really think Xianhai doesn't dare to touch you? Just wait for your punishment. Wait. Lin Yuxi shouted suddenly. Then, she walked to Xianhai directly. With his phone in his hand, Xianhai didn't reply to her but only stared at Lin Yuxi as if he was trying to ask Lin Yuxi's intention with his eyes. Lin Yuxi said, clenching her teeth, "He doesn't know you and your identity. Also, he could be a psychiatric patient. I hope you could let him go magnanimously." A psycho? Xianhai was surprised by her words. Then, he sneered, "Miss Lin, I will show due respect to you for my cousin used to pursue you, but please don't treat me as a fool. This guy is so arrogant. How could he be a psycho?" Lin Yuxi turned pale. She opened her mouth and was about to say something. Suddenly, Zukei said, "Who told you I am a psycho?" "Miss Lin, if you want to help me, please don't use such a lame excuse." Lin Yuxi became speechless. As a matter of fact, Zukei didn't look like a psycho at all at this moment. Zhang Derong, Su Ziolian, Wang Jin, and the rest of the onlookers got a feeling that Zukei was quite normal and didn't look like a psycho at all. However, for them, Zukei had made a mistake. Zukei had provoked Xianhai for he didn't know Xianhai's identity. "Are you a member of the Xia family? You said your cousin used to pursue Lin Yuxi, right? So, is Xiao Oking your cousin?" Zukei asked as he looked at Xianhai with a faint smile at this moment. "Exactly." Xianhai sneered. "It's a pity for you I knew that too late. I've made a phone call for I don't want to let you go today." "Ha, you don't want to let me go? What a coincidence. The Actough Saint has arrived in Capital City. I won't let the Xia family go either." Zukei retorted. "I hope you have called home and notified your parents, your uncles, aunts, grandparents, as well as your ancestors that I have left a message for them." After saying that, Zukei became serious and said with magnificent kill intent, "They should break the legs of Xiao Oking and you in front of me today. Otherwise, I will drown the Xia family with blood by killing every member of it." At this moment, the notorious big devil Zukei, who was fearsome in the world of cultivators, had returned. Chapter 912. It turns out he is really not a psycho. Instantly, the entire area fell into a dead silence. Everyone was dumbfounded, and they couldn't believe what they had heard. People like Lin Yuxi and Zhang Derong opened their mouths in surprise. Has he really lost his mind? That is the Xia family. It is the #1 family in Capital City, which is extremely prestigious in Huaxia and even in the entire world. How dare you say you will kill every member of the Xia family in front of so many people? Maybe the police will arrest you before the punishment from the Xia family. Xianhai was also shocked by Zukei's words. Apparently, he didn't expect Zukei would still be so arrogant after knowing he was from the Xia family. Normally, everyone who knew the Xia family would never shout at him and would even hold their breaths when they talked with him. Now, this guy still tried to intimidate him after knowing he was a member of the Xia family. What the hell is going on? Is he a psycho? Why could a psycho be so arrogant? Wait, no, it seems a psycho doesn't need to bear legal liability if he kills someone. Suddenly, Xianhai became vigilant. He stepped back immediately and stared at Zukei in fear. "I didn't bring a lot of bodyguards with me today. If I am killed by this psycho, my death would be too miserable." Mr. Xia, see that? His brain was damaged in a car accident. Could you forgive him magnanimously? Lin Yuxi, who had just come to herself, said hurriedly at this time. Before this, Zhu Kai had also said some unreasonable words in front of her. Therefore, she was used to Zhu Kai's weird behavior. However, Zhang Derong, Su Xiaolian, and Wang Jin had broken out in cold sweats from fear. At the very beginning, they had thought Zhu Kai was quite normal. However, now they were not sure whether Zhu Kai was still sane. A man in his right mind would never say those wicked words. He is definitely seeking death. Humphrey. At this time, Xian Hai snorted. So what? I never take my words back. Moreover, he insulted the Xia family just now. He deserves to die 100 times for his malicious words. To show my due respect to you, Miss Lin, I will ignore his words. However, one of his legs has to break today. Hearing that, the onlookers couldn't help but shake their heads secretly. All of them believed nobody could save Zhu Kai now. Even Lin Yuxi could do nothing but look at Zhu Kai sympathetically. She had done her best. This guy was too stubborn. He could have avoided the punishment by making an apology. However, he chose to provoke Xian Hai with malicious words. However, Lin Yuxi didn't know how to help him. After all, his mind might really have been damaged. At this time, Zhu Kai was still quite calm. He looked at Xian Hai sarcastically as if he was enjoying the performance of an ant. As a powerful cultivator, he didn't want to haggle over every incident with an ant like ordinary person. However, if an ant really wanted to seek death, he didn't mind sending it to its afterlife. Why are you staring at me? Are you going to play dumb again? I hereby ask you to break one of your legs. Did you hear that? Xian Hai shouted angrily when he saw Zhu Kai's expression. He would never forgive Zhu Kai even if Zhu Kai was really a psycho. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how to vent the anger in his heart. Hey, what an ant. This universe is so large, but you are so short-sighted. How dare a family on Earth behave rudely in front of me? Zhu Kai sneered as he shook his head. Crap. Xian Hai's face turned purple with rage. Then, he turned around and shouted toward the entrance of the school, Black Tiger, why are you still hiding outside the door? Come here and break the 2 legs of this guy, or I will break your legs when I get home. Swish. The next moment, several strong men in black suits walked in swiftly. From their muscular bodies and strong legs, people could easily tell they were good at fighting. Seeing them, all the onlookers in the building held their breaths. These kind of bodyguards were quite common in movies and TV series. However, the onlookers were still scared when these bodyguards came in. More important, the onlookers knew what would happen next. The Xia family was quite powerful in this country. Even if Xian Hai broke a man's leg at Capital University, it wouldn't be a big issue. In addition, Zhu Kai insulted and threatened the Xia family first. If his leg was broken, he wouldn't be morally right even if he sued the Xia family. Young man, today we will break your legs. You'd better control your mouth and stop making trouble in the future. A strong man in a suit said as he waved his hand to his underlings. The next moment, the rest of the bodyguards rushed up and were about to grab Zhu Kai. Whoosh! Suddenly, an ear-rending sound came from outside the building. Before the onlookers could see it clearly, a figure appeared among them suddenly. How dare you! Along with a majestic and cold shout, a strand of golden light hit those men in suits in their chests. Bang, bang, bang. Instantly, the bodyguards were knocked down on the ground heavily. Then, they passed out directly. The entire process was finished in one breath. Now, the onlookers came to themselves and found the one in front of them was an extremely beautiful woman. Fairy Chang Yi. Someone shouted in surprise suddenly. After that, all the onlookers exclaimed in surprise. They didn't believe what they had seen. This is really the Fairy Chang Yi. My god, she is the one recorded in those satellite photos published on the internet. Am I dreaming? I didn't believe I could see a celestial with my own eyes. Wow, is the golden light a celestial art? Many people shouted in shock. Lin Yuxi was totally stunned and dumbfounded. How could Fairy Chang Yi come to this place? Is she coming here for Zhu Kai? That's impossible. Zhu Kai is just a poor young man. How could he know Fairy Chang Yi? How could he say Chang Yi is his woman? At this moment, Zhu Kai asked in a low voice as he looked at Zhang Hongyan gently, "Are you finished?" Zhang Hongyan replied with a faint smile, Yes, their calm conversation stunned everyone in this area again. How could Zuke know Fairy Chang'e? Lin Yuxi's mind had gone blank, as if she had been hit by lightning. I am going to bring my woman to Earth. She is still on the moon now. What Zuke had said several days ago echoed in her brain clearly. At this moment, Lin Yuxi figured out that Zuke was not a psycho at all. He had been telling the truth from the very beginning. Zhang Derong, Su Xiaoliang, and Wang Jin were also dumbfounded with only one idea left in their brains. Awesome, Brother K. How could you have such a perfect and gorgeous fairy as your woman? Chapter 913. It is impossible for me to keep a low profile. Xian Hai was stunned on the spot. He stared at Zhang Hongyan as if his soul had been captured by her beauty. Several days ago, he had seen satellite pictures of Zhang Hongyan, which had totally impressed him. Even Xiaolu Oking, his cousin, as well as other big shots from numerous families were trying to find her and appropriate her. The identity and appearance of Zhang Hongyan were the reasons for her great popularity among all the men in the world. However, Xian Hai was still surprised by her in reality. This beautiful fairy, who was adored by numerous men, was standing in front of him now. She was even more perfect in real life than she had been in pictures. Her exquisite appearance and graceful temperament could only be owned by a fairy. However, what most startling of all was that this fairy had already been occupied by someone else, and the man was Zuke, who had annoyed him extremely. Instantly, the flame of jealousy was roaring in his heart. I've ruined their muscles and bones. I think we can let them go, for they won't make any trouble. At this time, Zhang Hongyan said this gently as she looked at Zuke. Okay, as you wish. I am not a man who always haggles over things. Zuke nodded his head as he glanced at the bodyguards who were lying on the ground unconscious. He knew Zhang Hongyan didn't want him to kill people casually for fear that his cultivation might be influenced by the terrifying spiritual qi. He didn't need to kill ordinary people. However, his Taoist connotation had been accomplished. The terrifying spiritual qi wouldn't hamper his cultivation anymore. Zhang Hongyan had asked him to spare their lives. Therefore, he should show his due respect to her. Moreover, it was really unnecessary to kill those bodyguards. But the Xia family was something different. Do you remember what I said just now? Zuke looked at Xian Hai and said with a cold smile, I'll give you another chance to go back to your home and tell the elder members of your family to send Xiaolu Oking here. All your 3 legs should be broken before coming back to me. Otherwise. Hey, he didn't need to finish his words. Gasp. Everyone in the area gasped in terror. Break 3 legs? This is really ferocious. I felt pain in my crotch when I heard his words. Xian Hai's expression altered slightly. Okay, I'll go home now, he replied coldly and rushed out of the building, ignoring Li Zioxiao. He jumped into his car and drove away rapidly, as if he was running for his life. The Xia family was still one of the most prominent families in Huaxia. Zuke didn't want to wipe it out completely, he wanted to give it a chance. After all, ants have always been a low form of life. It was just like you could kill 1 or 2 ants when you saw a swarm of ants. However, if you killed all of them, you would only stain your hand. If the Xia family could get a clear understanding of the situation and hand over Xiaolu Oking, Zuke would definitely show his due respect to his motherland by forgiving the Xia family. However, if they decided to resist, he had to eliminate this family instantly. Now, he was on Earth. Zuke could travel around this planet several times in 1 second. He didn't worry that the Xia family could escape, for they would never leave Earth. Zuke could kill people on Earth easily. People in the area figured out a truth from Xian Hai's escape. Now they knew why Zuke could be so confident. He has the support of a celestial. Everyone who has a gorgeous fairy as his bodyguard and girlfriend would be so confident. He is really a life achiever. Lin, where is my younger sister? At this time, Zuke walked up to Lin Yuxi, holding Zhang Hongyan's hand and asking with a smile. Lin Yuxi was stunned. When she came to herself, she pointed at somewhere behind her and said in surprise, she could be in the main hall. I've also just came to this place and haven't found her yet. Okay, thank you. Zuke nodded his head. Then, he walked out of the building with Jong Hongyan. Lin Yuxi opened her mouth but didn't say anything. Now she realized this fact. The fact was that it was not her who was about to cut all connections with Zhu Ke, but Zhu Ke who had already treated her as someone irrelevant. She had kept persuading Zhu Ke to forget their past relationship. Actually, Zhu Ke had already let it go. Was I wrong at that time? Lin Yuxi murmured regretfully to herself. If she hadn't believed Xiaoluo King's poor lie, she wouldn't have distrusted Zhu Ke, and she wouldn't have broken up with him without even giving him a chance to explain. It was a pity that there was no remorse medicine in this world. Something would be lost forever if you didn't grab it in time. At this time, people in the building started to walk out following Zhu Ke. For most of them, Celestials could only be seen once in their lives. It was just like a dream for them. This opportunity was even rarer than meeting a superstar. All of them chose to be onlookers. Zhu Ke and Jong Hongyan walked out and looked at the buildings in the distance. A classmate said, "Zhu Ke, the main hall is still far away from here. I can drive both of you there." Someone else shouted, "No, Zhu Ke, you can use my car. Just drive my car and make yourself at home." "No, Zhu Ke, use my car. I have an SUV, which is more spacious." "No, no, no. Just use my Porsche Cayenne." "Damn, is Porsche Cayenne a good car?" "My car is a Zodai." "Stop arguing. Don't you see my Norvco Hongguang?" Many people shouted as they handed over their car keys. On the one hand, they wanted to please Zhu Ke, who had an infinitely bright future because of his support from a fairy. On the other hand, they hoped their cars could get some celestial chi from Jong Hongyan, which would bring them good luck. "Guys, thank you for your kindness, but I don't like driving other people's cars. Please take back your keys." Zhu Ke waved his hand with a smile to refuse their kindness. "Are you kidding? The wealth of the Aktuf Song would scare you to death. I could have an aircraft carrier easily. How could I use your cars? I remember you also have some nice cars." Jong Hongyan said with a gentle smile as she looked at Zhu Ke. She guessed Zhu Ke would definitely take out a more luxurious car according to his style. However, Zhu Ke said with a smile as he shook his head, "No, I'm afraid I will startle these ordinary people if I take out a car from nowhere. I am trying to keep a low profile." After saying that, Zhu Ke waved his hand abruptly. Boom! Instantly, the void trembled a bit. A giant white jade imperial palace appeared in front of the dumbfounded onlookers. With dazzling rays and curling celestial mist, this majestic palace was just like a heavenly court in mythology. Chapter 914. I can't find her. The entire capital city was startled. The enormous imperial palace wrapped by dazzling light and curling celestial mist appeared in the clear sky out of nowhere. It was so enormous it could blot out the sky and cover the sun like the heavenly court in mythology. Everyone in capital city, no matter whether they were on their way to work or to school or were already at work, was shocked by this marvelous scene in the sky. All the people in the city stopped what they were doing. All cars stopped wherever they were on the roads. It seemed that time was frozen in the city. Everyone looked up in great terror. The heavenly court? Is this the heavenly court? My god, holy crap. Is someone shooting a TV series? How could such a big heavenly court appear in the sky so suddenly? My god. After the fairy has descended, now the heavenly court also appears. Does this mean all the mythologies of Huaxia of the past several thousand years are true? Holy crap. Look, is it the heavenly southern gate over there? Where are the legendary 1,000,000 celestial soldiers? I guess I will see a lot of celestials soon. The entire city was in an uproar. Countless people were talking about this. All the students from the capital university were also dumbfounded. Zhu Ke's old classmates were also totally frightened and didn't know what to say. I remember he said he would keep a low profile. Is this his so-called low profile? Holy crap. All his former classmates stared wide-eyed. They thought that Jong Hongyan would fly away, taking Zhu Ke with her. They also guessed that Jian Hongyan would take out a car with her magic art. However, none of them expected Zhu Ke would take out such an enormous celestial palace, which covered the entire capital city, simply by waving his hand. His flaunting measures are so extraordinary. Everyone looked at Zhu Ke in terror. Finally, They realized that this guy was also a celestial. No wonder he said he will slaughter the Zaya family. No wonder he said everything on Earth was just like ants for him. He is so powerful that he could even ruin the Earth by smashing this celestial palace down directly. I have no time to explain. Just get in. At this time, Zhu Ke jumped into the sky, holding Zhang Hongyan's hand. They were just a celestial couple at this moment, who were envied by so many people. Many classmates looked at this scene in surprise and didn't know what to say. Lin Yuxi was standing at the entrance to the building in frustration. When Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan flew into the sky, she realized Zhu Ke and she belonged to two different worlds now. She felt nothing when she had met Zhu Ke when he returned, for she was already senior management staff and CEO of a big enterprise. Later, she thought Zhu Ke had lost his mind. She thought Zhu Ke and she belonged to two different worlds. She was in the upper world and Zhu Ke was in the lower world. But now she realized she had always been the one who lived in the lower world. Boom! Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan stepped into the Imperial Palace. Standing in the main hall of the Imperial Palace, he waved his hand slightly. The entire palace trembled a bit and moved toward the rear part of the capital university a short distance. The next moment, Zhu Ke arrived at the position that was right above the main hall of the university. After that, Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan left the palace and landed outside the main hall. Puff! This scene almost made his classmates who were still at the central building of the university spit blood. Damn, he is really good at acting tough. He can fly. But he chose to place such a big palace above the capital city. Then he drove this palace from the central building of the capital university to its main hall. Was that really necessary? Damn, this guy hasn't changed a bit. Zhang Derong said embarrassedly. Su Xiaoliang said with a wry smile, he still likes acting tough as usual. Wang Jin said, shaking his head, exactly. When he got the campus spell as his girlfriend, he kept showing off Lin Yuxi's beauty to us. Zhang Derong said with a smile, so, this means he hasn't changed and is still our buddy. Haha. I guess he came back to find Fei Fei this time. According to Lin Yuxi's words, it seems Fei Fei is also here. Su Xiaoliang said curiously. Zhang Derong nodded his head. I guess so. Just now Lin Yuxi said Zhu Fei Fei came back to Huaxia the day before yesterday after receiving the university's invitation. Wait, this is not correct. Wang Jin said in surprise. How could the university know where Zhu Fei Fei is? We failed to get any information about her whereabouts after so many years' search. How could the university know that? Oh, no, something is wrong. Su Xiaoliang's expression changed and he said seriously, I asked my friend to keep an eye on any information about her in the university. I am sure the university never got any information. After that, the three of them started to look at the main hall in the distance seriously. Zhu Ke had put the Imperial Palace away. Then he stepped into the main hall holding Zhang Hongyan's hand in front of many eyes. The main hall was full of freshmen and graduates. Zhu Ke's arrival startled countless people. Zhu Ke ignored them. He started to search for Zhu Fei Fei with his soul strength in the crowd. Several years had passed, and he had almost forgotten Zhu Fei Fei's aura, so he could only search in the crowd, trying to find an aura familiar to him. However, after searching the entire hall, Zhu Ke didn't sense any familiar aura. He was stunned a bit. Then he started to cover the entire capital university with his soul strength. He still found nothing except for the familiar auras from Zhang Derong and the rest of his friends. What's wrong? Zhang Hongyan asked as she looked at Zhu Ke gently. I can't find her. Zhu Ke said, furrowing his eyebrows. A strand of uneasiness flashed in his mind. Then he shouted, as he looked at the onlookers in the main hall, Fei Fei, are you here? I am back. The main hall went dead silent. All the onlookers looked at him quietly. His shout got no response. Zhu Ke was frustrated. He could basically confirm that Zhu Fei Fei was not in the main hall and not even in the university. I was fooled. Zhu Ke's face darkened and he clenched his fists. Don't worry, let's search for her again. This place is not very big. It won't be very difficult to find her. Zhang Hongyan held Zhu Ke's hand tightly and consoled him gently. After all, Zhu Kai was so concerned about Zhu Feifei now, he had forgotten Earth was actually a small place. It would really not be difficult to find her. Let's go back and ask them what happened. Zhu Kai turned around and left the main hall together with Zhang Hongyan. They jumped into the sky and flew back to the central building instantly. This trip only lasted several minutes. Many classmates hadn't left the building yet. However, Lin Yuxi had disappeared. Zhang Derong saw Zhu Kai had returned, so he ran up and said anxiously, "Zhu Kai, something is wrong. Just now we were distracted by the news that you were still alive. Now we realized it is impossible for your younger sister to receive an invitation from the university. She has disappeared for many years. We have been looking for her these years, but we have found nothing." "She has disappeared for many years?" Zhu Kai said seriously as he looked around. "Where is Lin Yuxi?" "She has left," Zhang Derong said with a wry smile as he shook his head. "Just now we asked her about Feifei's return. She said she got this information from her friend. Now her friend's phone is off, so she decided to ask her friend personally," Wang Jin said dubiously as he touched his jaw. "Anyway, I got a feeling that Lin Yuxi might have been fooled. I'm afraid she will be in danger now," Su Xiaoliang said as he looked at Zhu Kai. "How about calling her back? It is safer for her to go together with you." "That won't be necessary. I know where she is. We will find her now. You just stay in the university to check any useful information for me." After saying that, Zhu Kai jumped up into the sky by stepping on magnificent lightning and dashed toward the main gate of the university with Zhang Hongyan. Chapter 915, Search for Information. At this time, Lin Yuxi had just left the university. She was about to find her friend, taking a taxi. However, before she could find a taxi, a strand of lightning flashed in front of her. Zhu Kai and Zhang Hongyan appeared before her eyes. "Ah!" Lin Yuxi was surprised. She stepped back subconsciously and almost fell down. Luckily, a strand of gentle strength appeared and pushed her back. Zhang Hongyan lowered her hand and said with a faint smile as she looked at Zhu Kai, "You frightened her." I was too reckless." Zhu Kai touched his nose lamely and said as he looked at Lin Yuxi, "I'm sorry, Miss Lin." "It doesn't matter, I'm okay," Lin Yuxi replied, shaking her head hurriedly. However, she was quite disappointed in her heart. Zhu Kai's apology didn't bring any consolation to her. On the contrary, she felt the distance between her and Zhu Kai was wider than ever. "Miss Lin, where did you get the information about Feifei?" Zhu Kai asked at this time. He had searched the capital university with his soul's strength. On his way here, he had also searched the entire area in this place, but he didn't sense any aura which could possibly belong to Zhu Feifei. It simply meant Zhu Feifei was not in the university and even not in the capital city. However, Zhu Kai was not sure about this. He hadn't seen Zhu Feifei for a long time. He thought he might have forgotten her aura. "You also know that friend of mine. I don't know whether you would remember Liu Lan, who used to be my roommate at that time," Lin Yuxi said. "Liu Lan?" Zhu Kai thought for a while, then a cute girl with baby fat appeared in his mind. He said, nodding his head immediately, "I remember her." Niunan, beef brisket. The pronunciation of Liu Lan was quite similar to that of beef brisket in Chinese, which was Niunan. She had a little bit baby fat at that time, so she got a nickname of Niunan, beef brisket. When Zhu Kai was still Lin Yuxi's boyfriend, he would always call Liu Lan Niunan whenever he saw her. Liu Lan was always so annoyed and wanted to beat Zhu Kai up. She has become a minor celebrity in entertainment circles now. "I plan to attend the school anniversary activity from the very beginning, so I contacted her last night and knew that she had received the invitation from the university. We talked about your younger sister inadvertently, and she told me that she used to see your younger sister in the M Nation," Lin Yuxi said. Zhu Kai was shocked immediately. Does this mean Zhu Feifei was studying in the M Nation? M Nation was a big country. He might find Zhu Feifei easily with his soul's strength. However, he was not sure whether he could still discern Zhu Feifei's aura now. Liu Lan said she met Zhu Feifei about 1 month ago. She also knew Feifei had gotten a doctor's degree and was working in a famous institute of biology in the M Nation now. Feifei managed to work out a medicine to prolong life. which has obtained the international certification. Then, she said she also saw Zhu Feifei's name on the invitation list of the university. She even called Feifei and was sure Feifei would attend this activity. After saying that, Lin Yuxi paused a bit and continued to say, shaking her head, however, now this issue seems to be quite suspicious. Feifei has disappeared for such a long time, the university wouldn't have her contact information. Also, I tried to call Liu Lan just now, but her phone is off. Do you know where she is? Zhu Ke asked immediately. According to his memory, Liu Lan was not a liar. However, this issue was quite suspicious. He hadn't met Liu Lan for so many years. Maybe she had changed. If what Liu Lan had said was true, he could get Zhu Feifei's contact information or whereabouts from her. If Liu Lan had told a lie about this, she must be related to Zhu Feifei's disappearance. Therefore, the most important issue was to find Liu Lan and get all the information he needed from her now. Last night, when I called her, she said she would attend a party of her entertainment circle today and had no time for the school anniversary activity. I am about to go to that party to find her. Lin Yuxi replied. Where is this party? Zhu Ke asked. Lin Yuxi named a hotel and its location. Zhu Ke didn't waste any more words. He waved his hand to wrap Lin Yuxi with a strand of true core strength. Then he flew toward that hotel with Zhang Hongyan and Lin Yuxi. After a short while, they landed on the roof of the hotel. Lin Yuxi was as pale as a ghost. Apparently, she was not used to her first flying experience. Zhang Hongyan changed her appearance quietly. She knew she would cause an uproar and even unnecessary trouble wherever she went. To avoid hampering Zhu Ke's business, she decided to show an ordinary face to people. Seeing that, Zhu Ke said, Hongyan, it is not necessary to do that. I will kill anyone who dares to bother you. Zhu Ke had thought he would meet Zhu Feifei soon at the capital university, so he had been in a good mood. He had let Xia Yunhai go and given a chance to the Xia family. But now he worried that Zhu Feifei might be in danger, which ruined his good mood completely. Therefore, if Xia Yunhai appeared in front of Zhu Ke now, Zhu Ke would definitely kill him. If possible, he would even wipe out the entire Xia family without giving them a chance. So, someone who dared to bother Zhang Hongyan recklessly would also be killed by him. He would do everything by following his heart, which was also his Taoist connotation. In a less technical way, I could let you go when I was in a good mood. However, if I was annoyed, I would kill you even you only offended me slightly. His words shocked Lin Yuxi immediately. For her, Zhu Ke's words were too overbearing and even outrageous. Isn't it too cruel to kill anyone who dared to bother Zhang Hongyan? However, when she remembered how Zhu Ke was killed in his past life, she became speechless. It doesn't matter. Nobody will bother me if I use this appearance, Zhang Hongyan said with a faint smile as she shook her head. At this time, she didn't want too many onlookers. Okay. Zhu Ke nodded his head. Then, they walked into the hotel from the roof. The top floor of the hotel had been reserved by someone. Countless celebrities of the entertainment circles, business elites, and people with extraordinary identities gathered in this place. This party was a triumphal feast for a blockbuster movie co-produced by several big investors. Most celebrities in the entertainment circles attended this party to show their support or expand their networks. Liu Lan had entered these entertainment circles for several years now, but she was still a minor celebrity. She attended this party to make more friends and get acquainted with more directors, so that she could get roles in more movies. However, she was in trouble at this moment. After taking her to the party, her agent asked her to sit together with several investors. Then the agent left. It was quite difficult for Liu Lan to handle so many investors alone. Those investors kept plying her with booze. When they had enough liquor in their stomachs, they started to take liberties with her. Liu Lan forced herself to stay awake. Although she could say no to them, she didn't want to do that, for she knew clearly that if she offended these big investors, she would be kicked out of entertainment circles in the future. Miss Liu, cheers. Let's drink. I've watched your movie several times. Actually, I like you very much. At this time, An investor whose family name was Wu walked up to her with a glass of wine in his hand. He placed his hand on her shoulder and started to move his hand toward her bosom slowly. Liu Lan turned pale immediately. His hand was becoming more and more licentious, but she didn't know how to stop him. Should I resist him? If I resist him, maybe I won't achieve any progress in entertainment circles and even become a nobody in the future. If I don't resist him, these people will be more and more outrageous. What should I do? What should I do? Patter. Suddenly, as Liu Lan became more and more perplexed, a crisp sound rang out. Chapter 916. I have some questions to ask you. 1 second ago, Liu Lan had almost abandoned herself to despair. However, suddenly, she felt the hand on her shoulder was gone. Wu, who had tried to take liberties with her, seemed to disappear. She looked up in surprise. She saw Wu's fat body was being lifted up by someone. His face was full of a shocked expression as if he didn't know what had happened to him. Liu Lan was shocked. When she saw who was the one in front of her, she was totally stunned. Zhu Ke looked at her with a smile as he lifted Wu above his head. Lin Yuxi and a strange woman were beside him. Zhu Ke, Yuxi, what brings you here? Liu Lan asked in surprise. Last night, Lin Yuxi had told her the news that Zhu Ke was not dead. She didn't expect that Zhu Ke would be standing in front of her now, lifting that fat Wu with one hand. It was quite difficult for her to believe what she was seeing. She almost wondered if she was drunk or was having illusions. At this moment, Wu, who was being lifted into the air, came to himself and shouted angrily, "What are you doing? Crap! Do you know who I am? Put me down. You're really noisy." Zhu Ke snorted and waved him about. Then, he threw Wu's fat body as far as he could. Bang! The next moment, a large noise rang out. Wu landed on a dining table, which was smashed by his fat body. People who were eating at the table jumped up from their chairs in surprise. Ah! Wu fell down to the floor together with the table. Then he shrieked like a dying animal. His clean suit was stained by all kinds of food. All at once, the noisy area became extremely quiet. All the guests and celebrities were startled and fixed their eyes on Zhu Ke. Zhu Ke was quite calm. He looked at Liu Lan as if there was no one else present and said with a smile, "Old classmate, long time no see. Please follow me. I have some questions to ask you." Liu Lan was still in a daze because of the shock. Within several seconds, Zhu Ke had showed up and thrown out Wu. She was totally shocked, and she didn't even have time to react. Zhu Ke said with a smile, "I mean, I have some questions too. How dare you make trouble at my celebration party?" A shout interrupted Zhu Ke suddenly. Swish! Everyone turned around following the shout. Many celebrities and even some big bosses stepped back with reverent expressions. "Mr. Wang, Brother Wang, boss." A middle-aged man in a suit walked in and everyone greeted him reverently. He looked sullen, and his angry face was full of a ruthless and tyrannical expression. It seemed he was a bad guy. Liu Lan trembled a bit and turned pale immediately. Her lips couldn't help but tremble. "Oh, I'm screwed. Zhu Ke, you've made big trouble," she murmured in a low voice as she clasped her hands together in front of her nervously. Everyone in the entertainment circle knew this Mr. Wang. He had several companies. A lot of actors and actresses worked for him, including dozens of superstars. More important, he got along well with many big shots in entertainment circles. It was also said he blossomed in the mafia and in the government. Otherwise, all these people from entertainment circles wouldn't attend this celebration party. This Mr. Wang could do anything he wanted in entertainment circles. Now, Zhu Ke had beat an investor up at the celebration party, which meant he was about to make trouble here. Liu Lan didn't dare to imagine what would happen next. The most direct idea in her mind was that they were screwed. Zhu Ke and she would be punished severely. However, Zhu Ke just stood beside Zhang Hongyan calmly. Lin Yuxi was quite nervous like Liu Lan. She didn't worry about Zhu Ke and Liu Lan. She worried about the things that would happen later. She could remember what Zhu Ke had said before this clearly. He was about to kill people here. "Who are you? Do you know this place? Who invited you here?" Mr. Wang walked up and questioned Zhu Ke as he stared at him ferociously. Liu Lan was badly scared. She stepped out and said timidly, Mr. Wang, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I should be blamed. He is my friend. This is a misunderstanding. Shut up. You are not qualified to speak here. Who the hell do you think you are? Bitch. Mr. Wang stared at Liu Lan angrily. Zhu Ke narrowed his eyes at this and said, as he shook his head with a cold smile, TSK. I didn't want to kill a lot of people here. After all, you are just ants. I'm afraid I will have to change my plans now. Don't want to kill a lot of people? Ants? His words puzzled most of the people sitting around in this area. What is he talking about? Has he lost his mind? How dare he say he wants to kill people in front of Mr. Wang? He even insinuated Mr. Wang was an ant. Hey, it turns out that he is a psycho. Someone ridiculed suddenly. A handsome and strongly built male celebrity walked out slowly with a wine glass in his hand. People looked at him thoughtfully. Liu Lan's face was even paler than a piece of white paper. She knew that male celebrity, Tang Bin, was an A-list action star who was good at fighting. It was said that he used to knock down 4 professional bodyguards at the same time. He even used to lift a car with his bare hands on a film set. He is so powerful. How could Zhu Ke rival him? At the thought of this, Liu Lan was in utter despair. She thought her acting career was ending here. Mr. Wang, let me deal with this little trouble for you. Tang Bin walked up and said to Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang nodded his head gloomily. Okay, just don't kill him, for he could stain the carpet here in this place. Gasp. The onlookers couldn't help but gasp. Just don't kill him? Does this mean he could cripple this guy? Ha. Don't worry, Mr. Wang, you can count on me. Tang Bin said with a smile as he looked at Zhu Ke sarcastically. Little fool, we are in a civilized society. You can't kill someone casually. And, swish. Suddenly, a strand of white light flashed out. Tang Bin stopped speaking and was frozen on the spot. All the people watching were shocked. They looked at Tang Bin in puzzlement and didn't know what had happened. Nonsense, just stop your blah blah blah. Zhu Ke's calm voice rang out suddenly. At the same time, he picked up a white tablecloth and wiped off the blood on the sharp sword in his hand. Chapter 917, Zhu Feifei's business card. The entire area was dead silent. Everyone was shocked, including Liu Lan and Mr. Wang. All of them stared at the sword in Zhu Ke's hand in mute amazement. What the hell? When did this guy take out this sword? I didn't see that sword a moment ago. What is the red liquid on it? Blood? Where did the blood come from? Patter. A dull sound created by something falling down to the ground sounded. The onlookers turned to the source of this sound subconsciously. Then all of them opened their eyes wide as their pupils contracted abruptly. Their faces were full of fear. Suddenly, a female actress's shriek echoed all around the area. The next moment, everyone shouted in terror. Tang Bin was killed. He killed Tang Bin. Call the police and run. The area was in a mess. All the investors and all the celebrities turned around, trying to escape in terror. They never expected that Zhu Ke would decapitate Tang Bin with his sword. Even worse, they didn't see Zhu Ke's attack at all. When his sword appeared, Tang Bin had already been killed. Oh, my God. Wu, who had been thrown by Zhu Ke just now, was running wildly and almost peed in his pants. Suddenly, he felt so lucky that he was only thrown by Zhu Ke. You. Mr. Wang changed his expression abruptly as he stared at Zhu Ke in shock. Then he yelled loudly, Da Niu, where the hell are you? Come here with your men immediately. He called for help from his bodyguards in a panic. In this messy situation, everyone was running away wildly in all different directions. Be quiet. Zhu Ke frowned and shouted, waving his hand. Boom! A cloud of magnificent green flames gushed out abruptly and became a sea of fire on the ceiling, which was floating above people's heads. The violent molten green lotus scared everyone. It seemed the fiery flames were about to burn down the void. The roof of the hotel was burned to ashes instantly. The hotel had suddenly become an open terrace. Those who make noise will be killed instantly. Zhu Ke said calmly. His voice was indifferent, but as deafening as thunder, which echoed in everyone's brains. All at once, The entire area was silent as a tomb. All the people covered their mouths with their trembling hands and didn't dare to move, for they had almost been scared to death. What are those? How could he create a sea of fire by just waving his hand? The ceiling of the hotel was burned down in a blink of an eye. Does he have extraordinary powers, or is he a celestial? Standing beneath the sea of fire, people felt their hair was almost evaporated, but their body was saturated by cold sweats. Flop. Suddenly, someone fell to the ground. It was Wu, who had been running wildly just now. His running stance was incorrect. When Zhu Ke uttered his warning, Wu had just lifted his leg and was about to run. Then he felt his supporting leg was not able to support his fat body, so he fell to the ground. Kai. Before people had time to react, Zhu Ke waved his hand and a strand of flame dashed toward Wu rapidly. Ah, no! Wu opened his mouth wide and was about to shout. However, he was burned to ashes by the flame the next moment. Instantly, all the rest of the people were totally shocked. They felt chilliness on their backs as if they were in an ice cellar. This merciless killing had totally broken them down. All the people covered their mouths with their hands tightly and didn't even dare to breathe deeply for fear that they would be turned to a dead body or ashes if they made any noise. At this moment, Liu Lan's mind was filled with terror and panic. She never expected Zhu Ke would be so powerful and so ruthless. He had killed 2 persons in a short while without blinking. He was as calm as if he had just killed 2 ants. How could this be? They said he was not killed but was suffering mental diseases. How could he be so powerful now? Liu Lan. Zhu Ke turned to Liu Lan with a smile on his face. It seemed the sunny boy had returned. Ah! Liu Lan was surprised. She looked at Zhu Ke in terror. Don't be nervous, I just have some questions. Please sit down. Zhu Ke said as he sat down on a chair. Liu Lan waved her hands nervously. No. What do you want to know? I'll tell you everything I know. Please be seated. Don't be afraid. Forget it. My question is, how did you meet my younger sister? Why is she included in the invitation list of the university? And today, why hasn't she come to the university yet? Ah, Fei didn't come to the university? Hearing that, Liu Lan was surprised a bit. Then she said hurriedly, I met her in the M Nation 1 month ago. I was quite surprised at that time. It seemed she was in a hurry. So, we didn't talk much. She left after giving me her business card. What happened after that? Zhu Ke asked. After that, I went back to Huaxia. Several days ago, I received the university's invitation letter. I found her English name on the list, so I called her and she said she would attend the school anniversary and have dinner with me. After saying that, Liu Lan remembered something. Then she said with puzzlement, however, she said something weird at that time. She asked me to take the thing with me. Before I had time to ask what the thing was, she hung up the phone. When I called her again, her phone had been turned off. She asked you to take the thing with you? Zhu Ke's eyes lit up after hearing that. Then he said seriously, where is the business card she gave you? I want to have a look. The business card? Liu Lan was stunned a bit. Then she realized what was going on and started to search in her luxury handbag hurriedly. Zhu Ke's words dawned on her. She couldn't figure out why Zhu Fei had asked her to take the thing with her. She didn't get anything from Zhu Fei. Now, she realized the thing she had received from Zhu Fei was a business card. Got it. After searching for a while, Liu Lan found Zhu Fei's business card finally. She took it out. This business card was a little bit thicker than normal ones. The edges of the card were decorated with some platinum. However, it was still a normal business card, which was made of high-quality paper. The information printed on the business card was also quite brief: the name, the phone number, and the address of a biology research institution in the M Nation, as well as the job title, Chinese name, and English name of Zhu Fei. After receiving the business card, Zhu Ke checked it out for a short while. Then, he started to fold the business card. After folding the business card 4 times, it had been turned into a strip. The platinum decorations had been placed together. Is this a USB disk? Liu Lan's eyes widened in surprise. Lin Yuxi, who was standing beside them, was also shocked. Apparently, she hadn't expected a business card could be folded into a USB disk. Do you have a laptop? Zhu Ke asked. Liu Lan was stunned by his question. Then she shook her head. She had come here to attend a party. Why would she bring a laptop with her? Wang! Zhu Ke shouted, raising his voice. Wang? Who is Wang? The rest of the people in this area looked at each other in puzzlement, but they didn't dare to say a word. Zhu Ke glanced at Mr. Wang, who was not far away, and shouted, Wang, Mafia Wang, you don't want to reply to me? Where is your laptop? Bang! Instantly, Mr. Wang grimaced. He wasn't used to being treated in this way, but he didn't dare to shout. His heart was filled with grievance. He was used to being called Mr. Wang or Brother Wang by others. He didn't expect Zhu Ke to call him Wang or Mafia Wang directly. The rest of the people in this area were speechless. Luckily, Zhu Ke had only asked for a laptop. If he had asked for a Gatling gun, which could spit a blue muzzle flash, Mr. Wang would have cried on the spot. Mr. Wang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said timidly, Please wait a minute, I will bring it to you immediately. After saying that, he dashed toward the bar counter, which was not far away from him. A laptop was placed on it. Just at this moment, Zhu Ke's voice rang out, Remember, I want a laptop that can spit out a blue muzzle flash. Chapter 918. Are you soft-hearted? A laptop that could spit blue muzzle flash? Flop. Hearing that, Mr. Wang, who was running forward, fell to the ground directly. The rest of the people in this area twitched nervously. He is really going to make fun of Mr. Wang. Why don't you ask him to bring you a laptop equipped with a Gatling gun, big brother? Mr. Wang cried out directly. He crawled over to Zhu Ke and made a pitiful plea. Big brother, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me. I could never find a laptop that could spit blue muzzle flash. Get lost. Zhu Ke kicked Mr. Wang away and said gloomily, Are you blind? Why do you call me big brother? I'm not your big brother. After saying that, he pointed at his face and said to the onlookers, Come on, judge for yourself. My face is so handsome. How could I be his big brother? Am I really that old? Swish. Everyone's eyes opened wide. Apparently, they didn't expect Zhu Ke would say that. Immediately, they all nodded their heads and replied mechanically, No, you are not old at all. Snigger. Lin Yuxi was dumbfounded. She couldn't help but snigger. She covered her mouth hurriedly and said as she looked at Zhu Ke, I am sorry. She didn't expect Zhu Ke could be so funny after killing people. Suddenly, Zhu Ke was more familiar to her, as if that funny guy who had always amused her was back. Zhu Ke said nothing but started to stare at the system interface, sitting in his chair. With the assistance of the system, he didn't need a laptop at all. However, this USB disk, which was disguised as a business card, had a password. He had needed dozens of seconds to break it. Therefore, he tried to act tough and beat up Mr. Wang while killing time. Now, the system had broken the password. He found the information in the USB disk was a formula for a certain kind of medicine. What? Zhu Ke was shocked by what he saw. He was a 4-star pill refiner, so the formula was quite easy for him. This medicine wouldn't even reach the standard of the 1-star medicine in the world of cultivators. However, it was quite extraordinary on Earth. If people would take this medicine for a long time, it would elongate their lifespans. It seems this little girl is in trouble. Zhu Ke shook his head and let out a sigh of relief in his heart. It seemed he had figured out what had happened to Zhu Feifei. Everything was caused by this formula. The development of this medicine on Earth would bring great fortune to its inventor. However, Zhu Feifei had taken this formula out and given it to Liu Lan, whom she hadn't seen for many years. It meant she was under great pressure and had to find someone reliable to take the formula, and she might have been detained by those who had cast greedy eyes on the formula, which would probably be the reason that she hadn't shown up at the university. Anyway, it was highly possible that Zhu Feifei was still alive as long as she didn't give over the formula. She should be safe temporarily. Patter. Zhu Ke snapped his fingers and gestured to Mr. Wang, who was lying on the ground not far away. Wang, come here. You have 10 minutes to investigate this research institution listed on the business card. Find out who is the boss, as well as the boss's current location. Okay. Mr. Wang, who was lying on the ground, replied immediately. When Zhu Ke had kicked him away just now, Several of his ribs had been broken. Now he was not able to stand up. Luckily, his bodyguards were quite smart. They ran up and got him up from the ground. Another guard took out his phone reverently and asked his underlings to perform the investigation. Little brat. At this time, Jang Hongyan walked up to Zhu Ke and asked in a low voice, "Why don't you get directions by throwing your shoe?" Zhu Ke was stunned by her words. "Patter." He patted his forehead abruptly. "Holy crap, right. I could also get directions by throwing my shoe. I forgot about this because I was in a hurry." "Little girl, you are so smart." Zhu Ke stood up immediately. Then he took off one of his shoes and threw it as he activated the lucky aura. Patter. The shoe landed on the ground and pointed at the southeast. "Okay, let's go." After confirming the direction, Zhu Ke put on the shoe and was about to leave with Jang Hongyan. The rest of the people in this area were totally dumbfounded. Get direction by throwing a shoe? Holy crap, how could this be possible? This is way too reckless. Are you sure you can find someone in this way? Oh, I almost forgot you. At this time, Zhu Ke, who had just taken one step, stopped suddenly. He glanced at Mr. Wang and said with a smile, "Today, I, Zhu Ke of the Exploding Heavens faction, spare your lives, because I am soft-hearted. So, listen up, from now on, you shall act as Liu Lan's dog and help her to become a superstar in half a year. Otherwise, I will kill every member of your family. Understand?" Gasp. Everyone gasped in terror. "Are you soft-hearted? Are you merciful? Nobody will believe you." "Yes, sir, I am a dog. I know what I should do. You can count on me." Mr. Wang replied on the ground as he let out a sigh of relief in his heart at the same time. He had thought he would definitely have been killed like Wu Tangbin today. He didn't expect Zhu Ke would spare his life because of Liu Lan. He was so anxious to run up to Liu Lan and become her loyal dog immediately. The only reason was because Liu Lan had such a powerful friend. He understood clearly that nobody in this world could defeat Zhu Ke. Even the governments couldn't rival him. If he could associate with such a person, he would be so proud for the rest of his life. "You are quite tactful." Zhu Ke sneered as he jumped up into the sky. Whoosh! A flash of lightning cracked and everyone closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, Zhu Ke and Jang Hongyan had disappeared. After that, the magnificent sea of green flame above their head also disappeared. Everything occurred and finished so rapidly as if they were all just illusions. However, the sun was beating down on their heads for the ceiling had been burned away. This reminded them that those things had really happened and they were not illusions. Owner, I was wrong. I was really wrong. My mouth was so dirty just now. I will slap my face myself." Mr. Wang shouted at this time. He crawled to Liu Lan and started to slap his face. He didn't even have time to attend to the wounds on his body. Undoubtedly, Zhu Ke's disappearance with the lightning crushed Mr. Wang's last bit of self-confidence. He knew he couldn't afford to offend that guy. Even a powerful nation like the M Nation wouldn't dare to provoke him. Therefore, he was reconciled to act as a dog. A lot of celebrities and investors started to look at Mr. Wang enviously. Liu Lan was totally stunned. She didn't expect Zhu Ke would give her such a big gift before his departure. A big shot, who used to control the entertainment circles, was kneeling in front of her and begging to be her dog. In a short while, she was surrounded by the rest of the people, who were scrambling to start a good relationship with her. Seeing this, Lin Yuxi's heart was filled with complicated feelings. Suddenly, she got a feeling that Zhu Ke's strength had gone beyond her imagination. Before this, she didn't believe someone could change the world alone. But now she was quite sure that this world was about to be changed by Zhu Ke. All the world structures would be broken by him alone. Maybe this man could conquer Earth within one day. At this time, Zhu Ke and Jang Hongyan were on their way to find Zhu Feifei. Earth was a small planet. The cities were filled with dense buildings. He had to get directions by throwing his shoe frequently, so that he would always get the correct direction. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for him to locate Zhu Feifei. After a while, He found they had left Huaxia and landed in a city full of foreigners, the M Nation. Zhu Ke checked his position through his mobile phone, then a cold smile appeared on his face. How dare you detain my younger sister? Why are people of the M Nation so fond of seeking death? What? Zhu Ke paused a bit as if an idea had occurred to him at this time. Zhang Hongyan asked, "What's wrong?" Zhu Ke said curiously, "It seems we have forgotten Buttface." Zhang Hongyan was stunned by his words. Then she shook her head, embarrassed. She had been concerned about Zhu Ke's issues and had already forgotten Buttface. "Where is he now?" "You go and find your younger sister. I will find him and bring him back to you," Zhang Hongyan said with a smile. Zhu Ke shook his head and said thoughtfully, "That won't be necessary. I've found him with my soul's strength just now. He is now in the R Nation." "Ha ha, little girl, don't look at me with such a curious expression. There is indeed an R Nation on the earth." Chapter 919, An Enormous Force. Zhu Ke had made such a commotion in Capital City in just one day. Therefore, it was impossible to prevent the release of the news, even though some people wanted to do that. That night, the news was released by the Huaxia TV station. It is reported that a heavenly court appeared in the sky over Capital City today. The experts indicated that it could be the most spectacular mirage in the past millennium. Citizens are urged to stay calm and stop the uninformed speculation. Latest news: fire broke out at the celebration party organized by the Wang's group in the Tanjing Hotel today, which killed 2 action stars whose family names are Wu and Tang, and it also injured several other people slightly. Foreign news: President of the M Nation said the living standard of the M Nation is the highest in the world. The gross national happiness standard of M Nation's citizens has reached 90%. Other foreign news: restaurants in major cities of the R Nation were attacked by many dogs and even some wolves in the last few days. Citizens were terrified. The government of the R Nation has sent professional animal control teams to capture the dogs and wolves. However, the situation is still grim. Dog lovers condemn this governmental action of the R Nation vehemently. These issues were also reported in the major newspapers and periodicals. Marvelous spectacle appears above Capital City today, the largest mirage of the past millennium. Whether the heavenly court exists, all the news was related to what Zhu Ke had done. However, Zhu Ke's name was never mentioned. At the same time, in the basement of a special department of Huaxia, investigators were working around the clock. "How's it going?" an old man asked, frowning. A young woman in a camouflage jacket replied as she saluted him, "Sir, most news is under control now. However, we still haven't found Zhu Ke. Alas, I'm afraid this will result in big trouble." The old man sighed and shook his head. "I thought the woman was just an alien, but I didn't expect that she would be so similar to the Celestials described in our nation's mythology." Now, Zhu Ke, who died 6 years ago, has also reappeared. He also has the celestial arts. "I'm afraid this world will be in chaos soon," the young woman in the camouflage jacket said seriously. "The clues we have gotten so far are not nearly enough. The only thing we can confirm is that the name of Fairy Chang'e is Zhang Hongyan. She is Zhu Ke's lover." Zhu Ke blockaded Mount Tai when Zhang Hongyan landed on Earth. It seems he knew Zhang Hongyan would land on Mount Tai in advance. "Okay, just continue your investigation." The old man nodded and said, "Remember, the higher authorities ordered us to avoid conflicts with them. While we perform this investigation, we shall help them by all means necessary if they are in danger." "Yes, sir." In the Prime Minister's office of the R Nation, a conference was going on. "Damn, why haven't you gotten rid of those annoying dogs?" "Sir, it seems those dogs are led by a dog king, who has conquered all female wolves in the nearby area. It has established a wolf pack, which is extremely dangerous. The animal control groups can't continue their work." Crap. "You are a group of idiots. Are you going to force me to use the army to get rid of some dogs? I will become the laughingstock of the entire world." "Sir, how about offering a reward, so that we can have the best animal control teams in the world come to work for us?" "Offer a reward all around the world? Good idea. Just do it." "Yes, sir." At a secret base of a research institute in the M Nation, Several people in suits were sitting around in a meeting room, a blonde guy said seriously, as he tapped on the table with his fingers. Haven't you got any information from her? Where the hell is the formula? No, that ridiculous woman from Huaxia refuses to tell us anything. Humphrey, the higher authorities have started to really pressure us. We only have two options. We can get what we want from that woman, or we can recover the data from the computer. If we fail, all of us will be imprisoned within a month. Damn, they are grilling us to death. We have no choice. You should know the strength of the Rothschild family clearly. Even the presidential election is controlled by them. Crap, this family could even close down the heavens with one hand. Hey, you could also do that if your great-grandfather controlled the Civil War and your grandfather made a great fortune by planning the Second World War. Some daydream for me. Let's go and see whether Zoof agrees to say something. Damn, this is really annoying. These days, her accommodation is even better than ours. Hey, you could also enjoy better accommodations if you were smart enough to work out the formula. Forget it. I don't want to be imprisoned in this damn basement that is buried even deeper underground than coffins. At the same time, Zhu Ke was walking in a street of the new city of the M Nation with Zhang Hongyan. He took off the human-skinned mask and revealed his face. Whenever he passed a block, he would toss his shoe to get directions. Many passers-by looked at him with weird expressions. Zhu Ke ignored those weird looks completely, for he was the #1 cheeky person in the world. At last, a policeman, who couldn't stand watching Zhu Ke's arrogance, walked up and stopped Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan. Sir, is this your performance art? Could you behave yourself and stop making a fool of yourself? The policeman said seriously. Zhu Ke sneered. I, Zhu Ke of the Exploding Heavens faction, always do everything I want to do. I am in bad mood today. Get lost in 3 seconds, or I will destroy your new city with a fiery lotus. Freeze. Show me your passport immediately. The policeman warned Zhu Ke as he changed his expression and put his hand on the pistol on his belt. Zhu Ke smiled and was about to kill the policeman. Mr. Celestial. Suddenly, a shout came from behind. Zhu Ke turned around and was stunned by what he saw. The newcomers were Evelyn and Lucy, who he had met on the uninhabited island. They were all wrapped up with clothes, sunglasses, and masks. However, Zhu Ke recognized them through their auras and voices immediately. Sorry, sir, he is our friend. Lucy walked up to the policeman and explained nicely with a smile, taking off her mask. The policeman calmed down and started to talk with Lucy. At the same time, Evelyn and a black man walked up and said, looking at Zhu Ke in surprise, Mr. Celestial, what brings you to this place? Great, if you can help us, maybe our problem can be solved. The black man said joyfully, I'm too busy to help you. Zhu Ke turned around and left directly. Are you kidding? The tough son is busy searching for his younger sister now. Your troubles are none of my business. Wait, Mr. Celestial. Evelyn shouted hurriedly, as she caught up with Zhu Ke. Zhu Ke didn't stop and continued to walk forward with Zhang Hongyan. Forget it, Evelyn, stop chasing him. If we annoy him, we will have bigger troubles. The black man dragged Evelyn away, reminding her in a low voice. But, Evelyn said hesitantly, should we just leave like this? Zoof is still in their hands. I can't just leave in this way. Whoosh! Zhu Ke stopped instantly. Then, he turned around in surprise. His ears were so sharp that he could never have missed this conversation between Evelyn and the black man. Zoof, did Evelyn mention Zoof just now? Holy crap! Immediately, he walked back, shouting, as an enthusiastic person, I will always help those who are in trouble to eliminate evil. Just tell me, how could I help you? Before that, please describe the appearance of that Zoof you mentioned just now. Do you have a picture of her? Evelyn and the black man were confused. Zoof, do you have a picture of her? Zhu Ke repeated. Evelyn, coming to herself, took out her phone and showed Zhu Ke a group photo of herself and Zoof. Although she didn't know why Zhu Ke was so curious about Zoof's appearance. In the photo, Zhu Ke found a picture of a cute girl from Huaxia who was standing beside Evelyn. She was a beautiful girl with short dark hair, fair skin, and refined facial features. A smile appeared on Zhu Ke's face immediately. Undoubtedly, The girl in the photo was his long-lost younger sister, Zhu, standing beside Zhu Ke. Zhang Hongyan also saw the photo. Then she said with a faint smile, "What a cute girl, Mr. Celestial. Do you know Zhu?" Evelyn asked in surprise. Zhu Ke said seriously, nodding his head, "She is my younger sister." "Tell me, where is she?" "What? Zhu is your younger sister? My God." "Zhu's elder brother is a Celestial." Evelyn and the black man opened their mouths wide and couldn't believe their ears. "Great, will be saved," Evelyn exclaimed. Then she said as she looked at Zhu Ke joyfully, "Mr. Zhu, it is inconvenient to talk here. Let's find a safe place first." Zhu Ke said, "No, just tell me here. I don't like sneaky actions." "No." Evelyn refused directly. Then she said in a low voice after looking around, "Mr. Zhu, we can't talk here. This issue is related to the Rothschild family. It is a horrible force, which is even more powerful than the president." Chapter 920. The plan is just one word: attack. The Rothschild family. Zhu Ke was surprised when he heard the name of this family. He knew this famous family from his past life very well. In brief, it was a magnate family with extremely powerful strength. This family originated from Europe. After several hundred years, it had controlled the economy of a superpower in the world. Now, its tentacles could be found in almost all branches of the M nation. Even the presidential election of this country was also controlled by them. Most people had only heard of this mysterious family in their lives. Zhu Ke also considered this family as a legend from his past life. But now, he discovered that his younger sister's story was somehow related to this magnate. Evelyn said that they had all graduated from the #1 biology university of the M nation. Zhu Fifei was one of her classmates, and all of them had gotten doctor's degrees. They were employed by a biology research institution, working together with many other experts. Then, the research team, which was headed by Zhu Fifei, managed to develop a potion which could prolong life. It should have been an invention used to benefit mankind. They didn't expect that a big conspiracy was soon to have grown up around it. While working, when we performed routine backup for the computers in the research institution, we found a mysterious file accidentally. Mike decrypted it and found it was a file sent by the Rothschild family. Then, we figured out that the big boss of the research institution was the Rothschild family. Evelyn said that Mike, who was mentioned by her, was the black man beside her, who was an expert hacker. After decrypting the file, they knew the plan of the Rothschild family was to monopolize all transactions regarding this potion in the world. Then they were planning to add an invisible but contagious virus in the potion. This virus would cause no damage to mankind at the very beginning. It was more of a time bomb in people's bodies, which could be detonated by the Rothschild family at will. In this way, the life and death of everyone in the world would be controlled by this family. Of course, according to the style of the Rothschild family, they wouldn't kill most people in this world. The purpose of creating the virus was to make a fortune by selling the antidotes. In this way, they would become the overlords of the world, instead of just the rulers of a few countries. This family was even more ambitious than the M nation. After finding out about this plan, Zhu Fifei started to arrange our escape by saying we were going traveling. When all of us had escaped, she chose to stay to get rid of all the data. She planned to take the last copy of the data back to Huaxia. Then, she was detained by the Rothschild family. Fear appeared in Evelyn's face. She said in a low voice, "After coming back secretly, we also discovered that the crash of our flight had been planned by the Rothschild family. They crashed the plane in the Atlantic just to kill all of us. They are really demons, right? They are lunatic devils," Zhu Ke said, filled with burning rage after hearing the story. Luckily, Evelyn and the black man didn't know his style. Otherwise, they might have really worried about what he was going to do. For in comparing degrees of cruelty, the Rothschild family was so outnumbered by Zhu Ke. The Rothschild family only targeted money and rights. They were not as destructive as Zhu Ke could be. For example, the Civil War of the M nation and the Second World War planned by them would never cause permanent damage to the ecology of the world. However, Zhu Ke was different. If the world went against him, as a man without any bottom line, he would definitely destroy the entire world. Mr. Zhu, we only know Zhu Fei has been taken to the secret base, but we don't know the location of the secret base. Someone said it is built in a place as deep as 1,000 miles underground. Someone said it is built on the seabed. We believe we will definitely find clues from the research institution where we used to work before, Evelyn said at this moment. Mike also nodded his head. Now the research institution has been closed. However, the security measures in it are still activated. If you can take us into that facility, I will find clues from their computers. Hearing that, Zhu Ke frowned slightly and said, shaking his head, this is too slow and inefficient. Ah. They were surprised. Mike replied with a wry smile, Mr. Zhu, this is the only way for us to find the secret base. Although they were not sure they could get clues in the research institution, for them, this would be the only option they had. Who said this is the only way? Zhu Ke said with a smile. In fact, I have a more convenient method. Mike, you have 10 minutes to find the residents of the Rothschild family, including their current heir. Ah, Mr. Zhu, are you going to? Evelyn's eyes opened wide with shock, and she didn't believe what she had heard. Mike's mouth also fell open in surprise. Then, he said excitedly, great, I like this kind of exciting action. Dear Mr. Zhu, I've investigated the Rothschild family. The members of this family are scattered all over this world. However, all the most prestigious and powerful members are living in the M Nation now. After saying that, Mike also calmed down. Then, he said in a low voice, however, the place they are living in is being heavily guarded. It is even safer than the residence of the president. Hey, in front of me, no place in this world is safe. Zhu Ke sneered as chilly lights flashed in his eyes. Today, I will ask them to bring my younger sister to me safely. If one of her hairs is damaged, I will kill a member of the Rothschild family. If she sheds a drop of blood, I will wipe out the entire Rothschild family from this world. Soon, Zhu Ke and Zhang Hongyan set forth. Mike, Evelyn, and the others also went to give directions to Zhu Ke. The current ruler of the Rothschild family was living in an area of luxury villas in the M Nation at this time. Almost nobody knew who were living in this area. In fact, the entire luxury villa area belonged to the Rothschild family. They were living in an independent manner which was located at the center of this area. The best bodyguards from around the world were hired by the Rothschild family, and they were equipped with the most advanced weapons, and were living in the other villas of this area. Many tanks were even parked in the underground garage. This kind of security system was even more horrible than that of Huaxia's imperial palace in the ancient times. Of course, besides the elite bodyguards, the security system of the villa area also featured all kinds of the latest technology. For example, with the infrared detectors and the anti-aircraft radar, even a fly couldn't sneak into this area. Even the foundations of these villas were protected by metal plates several meters thick. Therefore, it could be deemed as the #1 security system in the world. When they arrived at the villa area, Mike and Evelyn got nervous. After all, it was the most powerful magnate family in the world, which was controlling the economy of a superpower and even more powerful than the president of this country. So, they really had good reasons to be nervous. Mr. Zhu, to kidnap that big shot, I think we should make a plan in advance, right? Evelyn asked at this time. A plan? Actually, I've already got a plan. Zhu Ke nodded his head. They asked at the same time, what is it? Zhu Ke replied with a smile, the plan is just one word, attack. After saying that, he jumped up into the sky by stepping on the dazzling lightning. The next moment, he pointed his 5 fingers at the villa area below. Then, he clenched his fist in the air. Rumble. Instantly, the ground in the villa area started to tremble and crack. After that, in front of dumbfounded Evelyn and Mike, the entire villa area was pulled up by Zhu Ke from the ground directly. Chapter 921, It is the time for plunder. What the dash? Holy crap. What the hell? Lucy, Mike, and Evelyn were stunned. Their eyes popped wide open and they jumped in surprise. What the hell is this strength? Is he Magneto? Even Magneto couldn't be so powerful. He pulled up the entire villa area from the ground by just waving his hand. Damn, this is even more thrilling than the action movies produced in the M Nation. They were totally overwhelmed by the unbelievable strength of Zuke. The entire villa area had been lifted up into the sky, together with a large area of land. A giant pit was created in the ground that looked as if it had been caused by the crashing of a meteorite. Countless guards who had been startled by the uproar rushed out in fear. When they saw Zuke in the sky, they were dumbfounded immediately. Oh my god, who the hell is this man? Just call the reinforcements from the army of the M Nation. Damn, he is targeting the Rothschild family. Come on. We should protect Mr. Levin. A lot of guards started to act immediately. Some of them went back to protect their boss. Some of them tried to call for reinforcements. The rest aimed at Zuke with their weapons. Blam 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 blam. The next moment, numerous bullets flew toward Zuke at an incredibly high speed. Ants. Zuke smiled, as he raised his hand calmly. Then, magnificent true core strength gushed out like flood. Boom. The void was distorted immediately. The thickly dotted bullets, which were heading his way, stopped in front of him. What? How could this be? The guards exclaimed in surprise and didn't believe what they had seen. I can fly in the sky. How dare you shoot at me? Are you stupid? Zuke shouted coldly as he waved his hand abruptly. Swish! All of a sudden, all the bullets turned around and started to fly back toward the guards at an even higher speed. Then the bullets passed through the void and pierced the body of the guards. Flop, flop, flop. The next moment, a lot of guards who were covered in blood fell to the ground. Before dying, the look of shock was still on their faces, for they didn't expect the existence of this kind of strength in this world. At this time, in the largest deluxe villa located at the center of the villa area, countless guards rushed into the villa with guns in their hands. They shouted, Mr. Levin, get down. The enemy is not an ordinary person. A white-haired old man in a suit had collapsed on the floor, together with several middle-aged men and women. How could this be? Who is he? Is this the ancient strength mentioned in the diary of our ancestors? Why does he target us? They all exclaimed as their faces turned pale in terror. The higher up people were, the more they would know about this world. Ordinary people would only be shocked and terrified by Zuke's strength. However, they really knew nothing about his strength. For them, Zuke was powerful, but might not be as powerful as a nuclear bomb. However, the big shots of the Rothschild family definitely knew more about this world than those ordinary people. After all, this family had thrived for several hundred years, which was comparable with the dynasty of Huaxia in the ancient times. Their ancestors knew the mysterious unnatural strength in this world very well. They knew cultivators used to exist on the earth in the ancient times. Concerns of people in different social positions also varied. People at the summit of this world, like the Rothschild family, only paid attention to those who could threaten them in this world. After careful consideration, they believed only the mysterious strength mentioned by their ancestors could do harm to them. Now, they had witnessed this kind of strength personally. How could they stay calm? All of them were scared to death. Whoosh! Suddenly, a flash of lightning passed through the void. People in the room felt chilliness on their backs. Before they had time to react, several figures had appeared in the room, who were Zuke and his companions. Oh, no! Alert! Alert! The enemies have broken in. The guards in the room came to themselves first. Then, they shouted as they rushed up to protect the members of the Rothschild family with guns in their hands. Boom! Suddenly, Zuke waved his hand. The guns in the hands of the guards exploded into steel chips immediately. The guards were stunned as they looked at the steel chips drifting down from their hands. What is this horrible strength? Magic? Sorcery? They were so shocked and didn't know what to say. Stop wasting my time. If you don't want to die, just crouch down and put your hands on your head, Zuke said calmly. At this time, the guards were too stunned to move. Zuke didn't waste any words. He waved his hand to throw out a molten green lotus at the guards who were closest to him. Kai! Ah! The guards let out a scream and were turned to ashes like burning napkins. Gasp! At this moment, The rest of the people in the room realized what was happening. Then, without any hesitation, these people, who were shaking all over, crouched down and put their hands on their head. Even the elite guards who used to kill people sensed the fear at this moment. This horrible strength was so breathtaking that all of them were almost suffocated. Levin Rothschild. At this time, Zhu Kai called a name as he looked at the white-haired old man in the crowd. On their way here, Mike had told him that Levin was the current heir of the Rothschild family. This white-haired old man. Hearing that, Levin trembled a bit. Then, he stood up slowly. Actually, he was prepared that Zhu Kai was targeting his family this time. Good. At least you are cooperative, Zhu Kai said calmly as he nodded his head. Then, he turned to Mike. Mike nodded his head as he put down his backpack. Then, he took out a video camera and connected it to a laptop. His action puzzled the rest of the people in this room, including Levin. At last, Levin couldn't help but ask, "Sir, if the Rothschild family offended you before, we are really sorry about that, and we will satisfy all your compensation requirements." Zhu Kai replied with a cold smile as a chilly light flashed in his eyes. "I've heard you detained my younger sister and locked her in a secret base of your research institution. For this, how will you compensate me?" "What?" Levin's expression changed abruptly. The rest of the members of the Rothschild family also turned pale immediately. They didn't expect that this guy's younger sister had been detained by their family. "Now we have a big problem, sir, distinguished sir. This must be a misunderstanding. What is the name of your younger sister?" "I will ask someone to handle this issue immediately," Levin said in terror and anxiety. The thing he feared the most was that this guy's younger sister might have been killed by them. In this way, the situation would be irreversible. "Mr. Zhu, everything is ready now. The signal has been connected to all satellites in the world," Mike, who was not far away, said as he snapped his fingers. Meanwhile, he pointed the camera at Zhu Kai and Levin. "Good," Zhu Kai replied with a smile. He took out his human-skinned mask and regained his appearance from his past life. Then, he stopped behind Levin. Swish. Almost at the same time, the screen of the laptop flashed. Everyone in this room, including Levin, appeared on the screen. It was a global live show. The next moment, the scene in this room was shown on all TV stations in the world, including the live webcast platforms. Numerous guards were squatting down on the ground with their hands on their heads, together with several big shots of the Rothschild family. Zhu Kai was standing behind Levin. He said toward the video camera with a smile, "People of the world, greetings. Now it is the plunder time of the Exploding Heavens faction. The one in front of me is Levin, who is the current heir of the Rothschild family. Come on, Mr. Levin. Say hello to the audiences." "What? You don't want to do that? Do you believe I will cut your throat open?" After saying that, Zhu Kai took out an exquisite pink nail cutter and pressed it on Levin's throat. Everyone in the villa was dumbfounded. Everyone in the world was also shocked. The renowned Rothschild family is being plundered. Mr. Levin, the current heir, is being kidnapped by someone with a pink nail cutter. Is this a global live show of a case of plunder with nail cutter? Chapter 922, Powerhouses Won't Eat Their Words. At this time, all the people in front of their TVs around the world were in an uproar. Countless netizens who were watching the webcast were also involved in a heated discussion about this issue. In the online forums of the M Nation, the conversations went like this. Is Levin Rothschild being hijacked? My God, how could this be? Why are all bodyguards squatting down on the ground? Are all of them frightened by a pink nail cutter? This could be the most powerful hijacker I've ever seen in my life. The point is that he even dares to conduct a live broadcast during his crime. Isn't he afraid of the Rothschild family's revenge? This family is a gigantic financial power. I'm afraid Mr. President couldn't hold his seat now. I've heard the White House is in a mess now. My God, you should go to the new city to see the villa floating in the air. No way. What kind of machinery could lift up a villa? There is no machinery at all. Right. What you heard is correct. The villa is just floating in the air. Holy crap. I don't believe it. I must drive there to have a look. The netizens of Huaxia were responding in a similar way. Holy crap, who is this guy? He is so overbearing. How dare he hijack Levin Rothschild? Is he from our country? I don't know. He speaks English, according to his accent. I guess he is from our country. Are you stupid? Just now he said it is the plundered time of the Exploding Heavens faction. This guy is a member of our Exploding Heavens faction. Holy crap, this big brother is so awesome. He hijacked those people with a pink nail cutter, which is really a wicked operation. The Exploding Heavens faction will give him a full score for that. Puff, just check the online stores. The pink nail cutters that are same as his are on sale now. Awesome. These pink nail cutters will become blockbusters. With a pink nail cutter, the Exploding Heavens faction could hijack the whole world. At the same time, Lin Yuxi was sitting in front of her TV at home. She was totally dumbfounded by the scene she had just watched on TV. Even in her wildest imagination, she would never have expected that Zhu Ke would hijack the famous Levin Rothschild of the M Nation one day after making such a big noise in the capital city. At the companies where Zhang Derong, Su Ziolian, and Wang Jin worked, there was much conversation and little work getting done. Su Ziolian, holy crap. Wang Jin, is he really going to become famous around the world? Zhang Derong, is it too late for us to go to the M Nation and show our faces now? The Special Department of the State of Huaxia was in a dead silence now. Everyone was staring at the screen in surprise. Hell, now the world will really be in chaos. At last an old man said these words, with a wry smile. In our nation, in a luxurious hotel, a pack of wolves and dogs had taken over the entire hotel. All the customers had been driven away. All the wolves and dogs were running wildly around in the kitchen, eating all the food. Only a black and white husky was staring at the TV while chewing with his mouth full of food. Bang! A moment later, he jumped up from his chair and shouted excitedly, "Come on, my brothers and sisters of the Wolf Clan. Let's attack and occupy the TV station and hijack all the human beings through the TV." Growl. Woof woof woof. Instantly, the kitchen was filled with the howls of wolves and dogs. All the while, the live show was still going on. Zhu Ke, who was in the M Nation, took a small pink nail cutter in his hand. The nail cutter was so dazzling and eye-catching, Levin's forehead was covered by cold sweat. He was totally confused and didn't expect a powerhouse like Zhu Ke would use a small nail cutter as his weapon. It is okay if you use a nail cutter as your weapon, but why do you use a pink one? Levin, you can call your research institute now, Zhu Ke said at this time. Meanwhile he stared at the video camera coldly. To the members of your secret base who are watching this live show, I am Zhu Ke of the Exploding Heavens faction. Zhu Fei is my younger sister. You should send Zhu Fei to me unscathed today. Otherwise, nobody could save you in this world. Your death will be more miserable than anything you can imagine. After that, a strand of green flame appeared in Zhu Ke's hand abruptly. Then, he threw the flame toward several members of the Rothschild family who were squatting down close to him. Boom! After a flash of flame, those members of the Rothschild family were burned to ashes instantly. The bodyguards beside them were so scared that they had to hold their head tightly and squat down on the ground quietly without even looking up. Numerous people in front of their TVs all around the world were also stunned. What's that? What happened just now? He took out a strand of fire with his hand and burned up several members of the Rothschild family with it. Holy crap! Is this a special effect? Impossible. How could a special effect appear in a live show? Maybe the technologies of special effects have been upgraded. People all around the world doubted what had happened and didn't believe this scene and thought it could be a special effect. In the secret base where the research institute was, several principals, who had received the news, were also watching this scene from a screen. When they had found out that Levin had been hijacked, none of them expected that this issue was related to them until Zhu Ke mentioned the name of Zhu Fei. They were surprised but not scared. Hey, Flame, this special effect is quite vivid. What should we do now? It's none of our business. I think this is an opportunity for us. What do you mean? Hey, if we refuse to release her, maybe he will kill Levin. At that time, the Rothschild family will be trapped in a power struggle. They won't have time to take care of us. Moreover, now we are hiding in a place which is several kilometers underground. That guy won't find us. Just at this moment, a Huaxia woman appeared in the camera view. She was a woman with an ordinary appearance but an extraordinary temperament. Before people had time to react, a strand of light appeared in her face. Then, her appearance was changed. An extremely beautiful face appeared. She looked at the camera calmly with a majestic momentum in her eyes as if she was the empress of this world. Then, she said seriously, "Release Zhu Feifei immediately." Instantly, all the people around the world were shocked. People in the secret base were also dumbfounded. Is that she, the woman who appeared on the moon several days ago, the Qing fairy? Holy crap. Why is she implicated in this issue? Wait, does this mean those flames were real? My god, Celestials really exist in this world. Come on, we should release her immediately. No, we can't do that. If we release her, we might also be killed. These people were caught in a dilemma. At this time, Zhu Kai said suddenly, "Your time is running out. If you send my younger sister here today, I, Zhu Kai, hereby promise on my honor that I won't kill you." Meanwhile, Levin had started to dial a number with his phone. As the leader of the entire family, he gave orders to his underlings and asked the secret base to release Zhu Feifei immediately. The secret base received a notification. The principal's satellite phones started to ring. However, they didn't dare answer their phones and could only look at each other in shock. "What should we do?" one person asked. A man, who was sitting in the middle of them, said, clenching his teeth, "Let's just release her. The Rothschild family has surrendered. If they disclose the position of our base, I'm afraid we will also be killed." But several of his companions were quite hesitant. The man said with a faint smile, "Don't worry. Just now that guy promised on his honor that he wouldn't kill us, right? Trust me, the powerhouses are proud of their honor. They won't eat." The words uttered by themselves. Chapter 923, Zhu Kai, you are a bastard. At the same time as this scene was playing out on TV, deep down in the Research Institute secret base, a luxuriously decorated room was ablaze with lights and fully furnished. Computer screens that could simulate the outdoor environment were mounted on the walls of this room. People who lived in this room would have a misconception they were on the ground surface. Zhu Feifei was sitting in front of a desk thoughtfully supporting her head with her little hands. According to her original plan, she would have left for Huaxia several days ago. However, her plan had been exposed. Before leaving the base, she was detained and put under house arrest in this room. But she had anticipated this. After all, she was in a research institute of the Rothschild family, which had prospered for several hundred years. How could they let her go so easily? Also, this place was deeply hidden underground. It was impossible for her to escape. Therefore, Zhu Feifei had dismissed the idea of escape. Now she was considering whether she should give the formulation to the Rothschild family. Clatter, clatter, clatter. She knocked on the desk with her fingers as she considered her plans for her next moves seriously. She was quite clear that she was being well treated because the Research Institute still needed her, and she was the only one needed by them, because she was the only one in the world who could work out the formulation and give it to the Institute. This formulation was related to the future plans of the Rothschild family. Therefore, they had to detain her, treat her well, and wait patiently for her answer. As for how long their patience would last, Zhu Feifei also didn't know the answer to this. The most nerve-wracking problem for her now was that if she handed in the formulation, the only consequence for her would be to be killed by the Rothschild family. I didn't expect that this would be what it boiled down to. At the thought of this, Zhu Feifei could only smile wryly. For so long a time, she only had one goal: she would achieve great accomplishments in foreign countries. When she was strong enough, she would go back to Huaxia and confront the Xia family, so that she could avenge her elder brother. However, She didn't expect that it would be so difficult to achieve her goal. She had reached this height with great difficulty but was still no match for the strength of the big families. The Rothschild family was even more horrible than the Zia family. They controlled the M nation secretly. Zhu Feifei knew she only had two options. She could refuse to disclose the formulation and be killed, or she could ask the Rothschild family to wipe out the Zia family first, then she could give the formulation to them. Of course, no matter what she chose, she would die at last. Alas, this is so nerve-wracking. Zhu Feifei sighed and touched her forehead. However, she was quite calm and was not scared by her certain death. After all, she had become a strong-minded woman and was no longer a little girl. She was not afraid of death, but she was trapped in a dilemma between saving the world and avenging Zhu Kai. Ding! At this time, a sound rang out from the room's door. Then, the mechanical iron door of the room, which was very thick, was opened slowly. Zhu Feifei turned around and said coldly, "Get out." I said nobody is allowed to enter without my permission. The newcomers were those principals of the secret base who had been watching the live show just now. At this time, they were standing at the entrance with smiles on their faces and didn't dare to enter the room. One of them said, "Distinguished Miss Zhu, actually we are here to pick you up and take you out of this facility." "Leave here?" Zhu Feifei's expression changed subconsciously, for she thought they were about to kill her now. However, the next moment, she realized something was wrong. They addressed her as Distinguished Miss Zhu, which was totally different from how they had addressed her at the very beginning. "Yes, Miss Zhu, your elder brother wants to see you today, so we will send you to him immediately." The man nodded his head politely. "My elder brother?" Hearing that, Zhu Feifei looked shocked and asked seriously, "What do you mean? Are you going to kill me now?" People at the entrance were stunned by her words. The young man explained hurriedly, "No, Miss Zhu, we won't kill you. Your elder brother, Zhu Kai, hijacked Mr. Levin. He asked us to send you to him in front of all the people around the world." "What?" Zhu Feifei was stunned. "My elder brother hijacked Mr. Levin? Have you lost your mind? My elder brother has been dead for so many years. Did he climb out of his casket?" Miss Zhu, you will understand what we have said when you watch this video. We recorded it from the live show." The young man took out a tablet computer and pressed it several times. The TV in Zhu Feifei's room switched on and started to play the video from the tablet computer. On the screen, Zhu Feifei saw Zhu Kai place a pink nail cutter on Levin's neck and talk to the camera overbearingly. The scene and his momentum stunned Zhu Feifei, who was dumbfounded in disbelief. How could this be? Zhu Kai's face and wicked tone would perfectly match those of her elder brother in her memory. Is he still alive? This idea flashed in Zhu Feifei's mind. Then, she saw Zhu Kai kill several members of the Rothschild family with a strand of flame after finishing his threatening words. All at once, her mind went blank in shock. At the same time, in the villa, Zhu Kai still had the nail cutter on Levin's neck. He kept moving it as if he were trying to find Levin's blood vessel. Levin's face was covered by cold sweat. He even didn't dare to breathe deeply. He said carefully, "Mr. Zhu, I've received the reply from the secret base. They are coming to us with your younger sister. She is safe and sound. Could you release me now?" Zhu Kai knocked at Levin's head directly and said with a cold smile, "Stop dreaming. None of you can leave this room until I see my younger sister." After saying that, he looked up and stared at the video camera. Then he said with a shiny smile, "My buddies who are watching this live show, if you think I was cool when I knocked Levin's head just now, please click awesome. Hey, thanks for your gifts. I will continue to knock at his head to show my gratitude." Puff. People in front of TVs all around the world almost spat blood. Netizens of Huaxia were totally amused. "Awesome. Haha. This is so funny. He is really good at amusing others. This is a live show on TV. How could he treat it as a webcast? Nobody would send gifts to him. He just wants to knock at Levin's head with this excuse, right? How could we send gifts to him during a live show on TV? Why not? The Exploding Heavens faction is omnipotent. Come on, buddies of the Exploding Heavens faction. Let's click and send gifts to him. The Exploding Heavens faction can afford it. Crap. Previously, I would only have treated your words as a joke, but now I believe you. He even dared to hijack the heir of the Rothschild family. Money is really no longer a problem. At this time, Zhu Ke was still acting mischievously in front of the video camera. After a short while, Levin's phone started to ring. He trembled a bit and picked up the phone hurriedly. Then he turned to Zhu Ke and said, "Mr. Zhu, your younger sister has arrived safely. She is just outside the villa now." "Oh, you are quite efficient." Zhu Ke raised his eyebrows, ordered the villa down with his mind. Soon, the entire villa started to drift down. People in the villa were in a panic, for they felt the weightlessness as if they were in a lift which was moving downward rapidly. Bang! Suddenly, the villa returned to its original position. People who had been totally scared finally stabilized themselves. At this moment, Zhu Ke stepped out of the villa together with Zhang Hongyan. Outside the villa, they saw a short-haired graceful girl in a white lab coat who was walking toward them slowly under the protection of several foreigners and soldiers. When Zhu Ke walked out of the villa, he saw her immediately. Zhu Feifei also saw Zhu Ke. Then she stopped walking and stood there in a daze. She had imagined countless possibilities on her way. She had even thought this was a conspiracy of the Rothschild family. However, when she saw her elder brother, she was relieved and her eyes were filled with tears. He is really alive. This is for real, and this is not a dream. But why hasn't he shown up in so many years? But why hasn't he found me in so many years? Does he know what my life was like in those years? Zhu Ke, you are a bastard. Zhu Feifei shouted as she cried. Then she dashed towards Zhu Ke full of excitement and anger. Holy crap! Seeing that, Zhu Ke remembered this girl's barbarous behavior when she was young. He turned to Levin and shouted immediately, "Come on, contact a German osteopathic hospital for me." Chapter 924. How can I eat my words? A German osteopathic hospital? Zhu Ke's words totally confused Levin. Does this mean this guy is about to get injured? However, the video camera had been taken out of the villa following Zhu Ke, so his words were also heard by all the people around the world through the satellite network. Many people got the same idea as Levin's, that Zhu Ke was about to get injured. They were quite confused and really didn't know who could hurt Zhu Ke now. But the netizens of Huaxia widened their eyes and were totally shocked. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. A German osteopathic hospital? What is this guy going to do? My god, he is really a beast. He already has such a beautiful fairy as his woman. How could he still covet his younger sister? But his younger sister is also quite beautiful. The Exploding Heavens faction is awesome. Patter. At last, Zhu Feifei ran up and stopped in front of Zhu Ke. Then she started to punch Zhu Ke's chest with her little fists as she stared at Zhu Ke with her beautiful but tearful eyes. When her fist touched Zhu Ke, she was sure that everything was true and not illusionary. However, countless questions also arose. How was he revived? Why has he shown up now? How does he know those magic arts? Feifei. No, I am injured. I am about to die. Zhu Ke shouted loudly at this time as he covered his chest painfully, as if he was really about to die. Seeing that, Zhu Feifei couldn't help but roll her eyes. The others might not know Zhu Ke. She knew Zhu Ke really quite well. This guy was good at play acting ever since he was a child, who had been wicked and annoying too. Moreover, her punch was very soft. How could she hurt him? Zhu Ke, you are a bastard. Stop acting silly. I know your tricks. Just stop playing dumb. Zhu Feifei said angrily with a pout. Okay. Zhu Ke stopped his acting, embarrassedly looking at Zhang Hongyan. He had been fearless since his childhood. However, he was very fond of his younger sister. When he saw her tearful eyes, he realized her life had been quite hard these years since he was gone. Zhu Ke knew she was about to tell him all her grievances. Don't cry, little Feifei. Your elder brother is back. Nobody can bully you in the future. Zhu Ke rubbed Zhu Feifei's head with a faint smile. Brother. Zhu Feifei couldn't hold back her tears anymore. Her heart was full of grievances and excitement, which were all turned to tears. She jumped into Zhu Ke's arms and hugged him tightly for fear that he might leave again. Everyone in the area was watching this reunion scene quietly with emotion. However, Levin and the guys from the research institute were in a blue funk and didn't even dare to breathe deeply. They thought the separation of Zhu Ke and Zhu Feifei had been caused by them. Therefore, when they saw this moving reunion scene, they were scared and worried about Zhu Ke's punishment after this. At last, Zhu Feifei calmed down slowly and started to wipe her tears with Zhu Ke's clothes. However, Zhu Ke could only stand there and look at Zhang Hongyan embarrassedly. Zhang Hongyan replied with a cheerful smile. She realized someone in this world could face down her little devil. Where have you been all these years? Zhu Feifei looked up and asked as she stared at Zhu Ke at this time. Zhu Ke replied with a smile as he rubbed her head gently. Take it easy. This issue is quite complicated, and I'll tell you when we return. Okay. Zhu Feifei nodded her head obediently. She was a stubborn, indomitable, and independent girl to the outside world, who was stronger than most of the rest of the people. However, in front of Zhu Ke, she was just a small girl who could act like a spoiled child. She knew only one person in this world could love her dearly, and this person was her elder brother. Okay, just tell me who used to bully you during these years. I will punish them first. Zhu Ke said with a faint smile as he looked at Zhu Feifei gently. However, his heart had been filled with kill intent. He wouldn't let anyone go who used to bully Zhu Feifei. Everyone knew the world of cultivators was a jungle dominated by the powerhouses. On Earth, the weak would stand as an easy prey to the strong, just like in the world of cultivators. Wealth and power dominated this planet. Therefore, Zhu Feifei had been sufficiently aggrieved in these years when he was not on the earth. However, since he had come back, he would avenge Zhu Feifei for all her grievances. In this way, he would be just like those who used to bully Zhu Feifei with their power. However, he wanted to do that. It was impossible for him to return good for evil. It's okay as long as you have come back to me. Luckily, you returned in time. I wouldn't have been able to see you after a little while. Zhu Feifei didn't sense Zhu Ke's killing intent. She just expressed the feelings in her mind. Zhu Ke squinted his eyes immediately. Then he turned to Levin and the people from the research institute and asked coldly, "You said you wouldn't be able to see me just now. Does it mean they were going to kill you?" Hearing that, Levin was totally terrified and his legs couldn't help but tremble. Now he remembered Zhu Feifei's identity. When that medicine was developed, he was so excited, and he was also the one who ordered his men to detain Zhu Feifei. The guys from the research institute turned pale and explained immediately, No, Mr. Zhu, you misunderstood us. How could we kill Dr. Zhu? Right, Dr. Zhu is one of the rarest geniuses of the past 100 years. Although I detained her, I just wanted her to develop those medicines. Even if she refused us, we couldn't afford to lose her. They said hurriedly. Zhu Feifei said as she looked at them angrily, "You are really shameless. When you locked me up, your attitude was totally different." "Rosen, I remember you said I only have 1 month to consider this issue, right? If I don't give you a satisfactory reply, you will break my legs, so that I will sit in a wheelchair for the rest of my life." After saying that, Zhu Feifei turned to another young man and said seriously, "And you, Gil, I don't want to repeat your disgusting words. You should say sorry to me now." "What? Disgusting words? Holy crap. How dare you insult my younger sister?" Hearing Zhu Feifei's words, Zhu Ke said as he glanced at the guys from the research institute coldly, "You are seeking death." "Ah, no, Mr. Zhu. All of these are misunderstandings." They were so terrified and started to step back. At this time, one of them remembered something and said immediately, "Mr. Zhu, you promised on your honor that you wouldn't kill us." "You can't eat your words, Humphrey. You don't need to tell me. I, Zhu Ke of the Exploding Heavens faction, has been fair and square all my life. I will never eat my words." Zhu Ke snorted. The guys from the research institute let out a sigh of relief. The next moment, Zhu Ke said with a cold smile, "But I didn't say I won't beat you to death, or I won't punch you to death, or I won't cut you to death." After saying that, he waved his hand. Whoosh! Dozens of pink nail cutters appeared in front of the bodyguards of the Rothschild family from nowhere. Then, Zhu Ke's voice came into the ears of those bodyguards. pick up the nail cutter and cut them to death. Chapter 925. Just compensate him with money then. The researchers were beyond horrified. Ah, no, Mr. Zhu. You can't do that. Before they could finish, the large group of Rothschild bodyguards stepped up and surrounded them. Every single bodyguard had a small, pink nail clipper in their hands. They covered the researchers' mouths and stabbed the nail clippers into their bodies. The whole process was, of course, relayed to the entire world via cameras. Everyone was stunned to think that a powerhouse like Zhu Ke would resort to such petty tricks. What happened to his declaration that they could count on his pure character? What happened to his motto to lead an upright and just life? Did he actually mean that he wanted to be shameless in an above-board manner? Huaxian Edison expressed it this way: crap. The way he plays it is so shameless. I admit defeat. I admit defeat too. Everyone. I can't take it anymore. Right here, right now, I want to say something on behalf of the millions of viewers here. What do you want to say? The Exploding Heavens faction is awesome. At the same time, Zhu Ke was putting a hand on Zhu Feifei's shoulder. He smiled slightly. Feifei, stop looking around. Let's go in and meet Mr. Levin to discuss psychological damage compensation matters. Psychological damage compensation? Levin shivered at those words, especially after witnessing what had happened to the researchers. His heart was filled with unease. Heaven knew how much Zhu Ke would want to extort from him for psychological damages. Zhu Feifei did not react at all. All she wanted was for those people to apologize, and she would let it go. However, she did not expect Zhu Ke to order the guards to charge in with nail clippers and kill the researchers torturously. The researchers seemed to have suffered a more gruesome death than those previously reduced to ashes with a ball of fire. Brother, why don't we leave it at that? Zhu Feifei blurted out. She was still not used to this sudden rise in status. She had started as a nobody and climbed to her current place, but was still just an insignificant speck in the world. Deep down, she still believed that they shouldn't get into more trouble if they could help it. The same, however, could not be said for Zhu Ke. Having experienced many killings and massacres in the world of cultivation, Zhu Ke knew that some fear and power could only be established through spilling blood. The chilling revenge you exact on one enemy today might extinguish 100 enemies in your future. Now that the whole world was watching, Zhu Ke immediately decided that it was the perfect chance to build his reputation and also act tough. We can't leave it. Those who have bullied you, I would never let them off. Moreover, even if I agree to let them go, your sister-in-law wouldn't agree, right, Hongyan? Zhu Ke smiled as he turned to look at Zhang Hongyan. Zhang Hongyan smiled slightly and shook her head resignedly. It looked like Zhu Ke was going to use her to change the topic, and Zhu Ke succeeded. Zhu Feifei was already astounded when she had first seen Zhang Hongyan. She had seen TV news reports about Zhang Hongyan when she was held captive, a traditionally dressed, fairy-like beauty on the moon, with an air of elegance and ultimate perfection. She never thought that such a woman would become her sister-in-law. The jerk Zhu Ke was this lucky? She stared at Zhu Ke in total surprise. Then she turned to Zhang Hongyan. In the end, she said, "Fairy sister-in-law." Zhang Hongyan smiled and shook her head. "My name is Zhang Hongyan, not fairy." As she said that, she raised her hand, and a mauve jade necklace suddenly appeared in her palm. The crystalline jade shone brilliantly and was full of spiritual qi. It slowly rose from her palm. Feifei, this is a protection charm necklace. It can also cleanse your tendons and rinse your blood vessels. As she said that, the mauve jade necklace stopped in front of Zhu Feifei. Zhu Feifei stood stunned in disbelief. Not only was she shocked by the power displayed by Zhang Hongyan, but the beautiful mauve jade necklace had also stolen all of her attention. As a mortal, she had never seen a mauve jade this beautiful. While she was no expert, she could tell with one look that this mauve jade necklace would be a priceless gem on earth. No, I can't take something this precious. Zhu Feifei hurriedly shook her head. While she genuinely liked the necklace, the value of the jewelry had far surpassed any ordinary greeting gifts. Feifei, there's no need to worry. Accept it. Your sister-in-law is family, and there's no need to stand on ceremony. Zhu Kai smiled and put that necklace directly around Zhu Feifei's neck. This necklace was indeed quite precious. Not only would it work as a protective charm, more important, it could cleanse Zhu Feifei's tendons and rinse her blood vessels. It was far more effective than those regular vessel rinsing pills. Zhang Hongyan knew that Zhu Kai would definitely want to bring Zhu Feifei to the world of cultivation. By then, Zhu Feifei would inevitably start to cultivate. For that, the rinsing and cleansing of tendons and blood vessels are the most crucial first steps. She would need a solid foundation. That's why this was the perfect necklace for Zhu Feifei. The moment the necklace was put on her, Zhu Feifei immediately felt a cooling sense wash over her body, and she was filled with a sense of comfort from head to toe. It swept away all of her fatigue, and she quickly became energized. Like she had an inexhaustible pool of energy. She instantly turned to Zhang Hongyan and smiled sweetly. "Thank you, Sister Hongyan." "Call her sister-in-law." Zhu Feifei pouted. "I won't. Sister Hongyan is so beautiful. If I call her sister-in-law, won't it make her sound old? Don't you agree, Sister Hongyan?" Zhu Feifei skipped up to Zhang Hongyan and took up her hand, apparently very comfortable with her. It was evident that she was 100% satisfied with her sister-in-law and even felt that her brother did not deserve Zhang Hongyan. It was like a flower planted in cow dung, but since that dung was her brother, she had to quickly please the flower so that she wouldn't run away. "You may call me whatever you want to." Zhang Hongyan smiled. At her status and age, an energetic, cute, and well-mannered girl like Zhu Feifei was a pleasure to have around. In the end, the few people left returned to the villa. Levin's head hung low as he headed back, jittery throughout the whole journey. This time, there were no more bodyguards following him. Everyone knew that no number of bodyguards could stop a person as powerful as Zhu Kai. The support army sent by the M Nation shared the same sentiment. They stood outside the villa and stared blankly at each other, and no one dared to get close in fear of angering that matchless powerhouse. In the Huaxia capital, the Xia family's home atmosphere was stifling. They understood just how powerful Zhu Kai was from TV, and were well aware that there was an impending disaster coming their way. Big or small, all power members of the clan rushed back for an urgent meeting. "Spilett, what's this all about?" The head of the Xia family was nearing 80 years old. With his 80-year-old celebration around the corner, little did he know that his eldest grandson would bring this serious bit of trouble back to their clan. Xia Luoqing had caught wind of the situation and was on his way home, with a terrible expression on his face. He had been summoned to train in the army for the past few years and intended to venture into politics once he had climbed up the ranks. To think that such a huge trouble would come knocking on his door. In fact, he couldn't recall who Zhu Kai was in the beginning. He was even confused when he first saw his photo. It was not that he was forgetful, it was that he had harmed so many more, and Zhu Kai was simply one of them. Too many nobodies with no money or power had died under a single order of his. He believed that whatever he wanted, he would get. A mere human life was nothing in his eyes. However, he then heard the name of the school beauty, Lin Yuxi, from his cousin Xian Hai. Xia Luoqing then slowly remembered that he seemed to have ordered his underlings to kill Lin Yuxi's boyfriend. It was just that when the deed was done, he was called to the army before he could make a move on Lin Yuxi. He never imagined that the man who was supposed to be dead years ago would return as an immortal. It was a fact he could not swallow. Now that he was sitting at home, in front of the many gazes of his elders, he had thought of a way to wriggle out of this. "Grandpa, this has got nothing to do with me. Back then, he was the one who tried to steal my girlfriend. The people beneath me couldn't stand his doings and killed him without consulting me. I only knew about that afterward," Xia Luoqing said innocently. A middle-aged woman standing on the sidelines held Xia Luoqing's hand in hers and turned to the head of the Xia family. "Father, you have watched Luoqing grow up into a young man. He is the future of the Xia family. Even if he did commit a small mistake, there's no need to hand him over." That Zhu Kai keeps calling for revenge, but, after all, he just wants compensation. "Let's just compensate him with money then,"